Hey everybody. All right, I didn't get all my windows synchronized in advance to check on here, so give me a second to do that, please. Forgive me if you hear my voice echo for a second. Advance to check on here, so give me a second to do that, please. All right, one's working. All right, the other one's working too. Cool. All right. So as always, I just need you guys to know if you're in the Gabriel Cruz channel, the live stream that you will want to be on going forward will be called the Gabriel Cruz Backup, Gabriel Cruz Research Backup Mirror Channel. And that's just because my main channel's been getting too many strikes, and I want to preserve the content on there and not have to pull any of that material or archive it elsewhere if I can help it, any more than I've already had to. So I'm just trying to avoid more problems with the main channel and then do as much activity that's live on the other one. And so in aid of that, you're going to notice, folks, that what happens is, and I'll reiterate this, I want this to be historically significant, so I'm not just babbling about this issue in the beginning, but yeah, if you want the archive, like last night, it's already been deleted off of the main channel. So if you don't see last night's live stream on the channel you're viewing on now, you can be on either one. That's cool. But if you're not subscribed to the other one, you won't get notifications if anything ever happens to this channel, and that'll make it hard to find my material. Okay, if that ever happens. So I just want to make sure everybody gets that mirror channel that does like to tune in regularly and wants to know where I'm at, because that's going to help. Then today I felt the need to do something a little bit more urgently. Not necessarily urgently, but I guess I felt the internal, motivation or whatever to speak on this issue specifically, because there's a lot of problems right now in America, globally, in fact, but I think in America in particular. With everybody's perception of race. And a lot of us are struggling with it, going through internal battles as far as how we identify and what we believe. I think a lot of these things are actually quite healthy, some of the things that people are being confronted with. So I don't like how it all came about. But I know for me, I've been struggling with ethnic identity issues for about 4 or 5 years now, as reality has sunk in, involving genealogy, things involving faked ancestry and faked records and things like that. And when you find track records of people that you're related to, that you're kind of conscious and aware have historically been sort of like epic liars and have in fact rigged records to pretend that they're bloodlines that they're not, so they can blend into families that they didn't come from, or completely take over bloodlines that were never theirs. This was much easier to do in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, whatever, prior to that even, because there was no DNA testing. And then once they learned that there was going to be definitive ways to find out who was related to who, well, these same wizards had to find new ways to sort of like make it look like, they're things that they're not, by rigging of records and make sure they owned quite a few of these companies relative to genetics, DNA 23 and things like that, Ancestry.com. If you look into, this is mostly about the CIA, and that's why I'm getting to this. What is the master plan, folks? What is going on? Why would we have a CIA that does something as awkward as the media campaign that they just released this morning? Keeping in mind, folks, my name is Cruz. I've been raised, Cruz, however you want to say it, whatever your preference is. I was raised Mexican American. The foods, the culture, everything like that was heavily immersed within my environment. Off and on. I had a mostly suburban kind of upbringing individually in my immediate family. But no, my father's family came from significant Mexican American roots. And so, beyond that, there's been a long history in the family of having been associated with things like equal employment opportunity projects relative to government. I myself actually spent some time on a diversity council inside a major corporation, so I'm familiar with the efforts and like the campaigns that go on at a very high level to, I guess you could say, socially engineer diversity issues in ways that I think aren't really actually honoring the true nature of diversity, and really are creating problems as opposed to actually creating bridges. What they're actually doing, folks, is they're creating a new exploitable class. What I'm concerned about is that what the CIA and many others have learned now is you no longer need talent. What you now need are people that can be controlled. That's not what I'm saying about the people that are being recruited here, folks. It's not about race, because this is the tricky thing that they're going to do. This is why a person that would have a white, typically last name, almost couldn't do what I'm doing right now, which is why I felt compelled to do it. All right. Because I need to just tell you straight up what the game is here. And as a person that has brown skin, I want you to know that I am not cool with this. I don't like what they're doing here. I see it. I can see it clearly. It's meant to do a whole bunch of things simultaneously to create strife and anger and upset within the United States. So the irony in this is that the CIA, for those unfamiliar, is not supposed to do domestic operations. They're a foreign intelligence gathering agency. And when they do things like this, I would argue that what they are actually engaged in with that advertisement is, in fact, something akin to a domestic operation. This is literally how they've always done things. It's very much a rigging of perceptions. They seem to be more like peas in the pod with the FBI than I ever really realized. That's been the thing that's been kind of a wake-up call for me personally. I guess I had this sort of idea in my mind that when it came to this type of corruption where they would actually do things harmful to America, I had kind of accepted it in my mind that the CIA kind of goes there. Most people that research these things know better. They know that this is not an agency at the top levels that has historically had a lot of scruples. Okay. There's an interesting film. How true it is, I don't know, but it follows true history as far as we've been told. It's called excuse me. I want to make sure I get this right, but I believe it's The Good Shepherd. So let me make sure I have the title right. Yeah, it's The Good Shepherd. So I'm going to put this up on the screen here really quick. Because again, guys, there's the lore that we've been told. And so I don't necessarily know always how I'm supposed to share information that I know about with people compared to what they've historically been told. You know, I had a barrier that I had to get past as far as what I've known about. You know, I always kind of I was raised in an environment where, you know, a whole bunch of us, not us, but a whole bunch of people within the family worked in government functions. And, you know, when you're raised in Washington, D.C. for part of your upbringing, and you're surrounded by the monuments and the buildings and, you know, all the politicians, there's this awe that it leaves you with as a child. At least it did that to me. And it permeated for a long time. I grew up with this idea that government is effectively a good thing, and that there really isn't that much room for a lot of failure with it. I wasn't that like stupid, guys, but I'm telling you that it wasn't ever something that I really thought would turn into the beast that it is now. And I would have been cynical to say that it could become what it is now. That's all. And I'm not anti-government, guys, to be clear. Far from it. It's just simply that it needs to be limited. And, you know, we all kind of agree that some degree of governance is a positive thing. Things always have to flow back to something in the middle. Telephone number management is a great example of it, guys. Like I've tried telling people about information flow in America. You know, if everybody was the chief when it came to phone numbers, then everybody would want 555-1212 or 777-7777 and then area code 777, right? I mean, every company would probably have people banging down the doors to get those ones that are all the same digit as the phone number because it's just so easy to remember. And if nobody's managing it as a central pool of numbers, even if it's just all the different companies that have the phone numbers to begin with, they all just have to sort of agree that they can't just grab whatever the hell they want. They've got to like have some management of it that's performed by some degree of consortium of interests that would be balancing all of their interests relative to the public interest, who are their customers. You see, that's how actually the pooling of phone numbers and all those services used to work. Until the 90s when Science Applications International Corporation, SAIC, when you create a mirror of SAIC, it is CIAS, which is one of the reasons why I want to stress CIA ownership of companies over and over again, because they love doing cheeky things like that when they own a company. SAIC is the CIA's. SAIC, CIAS. It's so funny, isn't it, you guys? Hardy har, CIA. That's all I got to tell you, man. You're too freaking clever for me. But The Good Shepherd is a 2006 American spy film produced and directed by Robert De Niro and starring Matt Damon and Angelina Jolie, and De Niro with an extensive supporting cast. Although it is a fictional film loosely based on real events, it is advertised as telling the untold story of the birth of the counterintelligence in the Central Intelligence, the birth of counterintelligence in the Central Intelligence Agency. And the only thing that impressed me about the movie, guys, was that whether you accept them as real or not, they did cover things like, what do I say here? They cover things like Skull and Bones affiliations. And so it's actually pretty deep into the plot line where Matt Damon, as a recruit into the CIA, they show you straight up that he has to go into Skull and Bones, and they even go into great detail about what those Skull and Bones rituals are like. And guys, they actually are pretty explicit. I was kind of surprised that they had some of the content that they did, which makes me think that if they were willing to go, if Robert De Niro was willing to go as far as he did with some of the scenes relative to the Skull and Bones rituals within this Hollywood film, you can only imagine how bad it actually is. Because I don't want to get into the acts or anything, guys, but it's pretty gross. And they really don't edit it that much, like some of the rituals that go on. So let's see here. Dr. Fredericks as a Nazi, they say, they want to expose Professor Dr. Fredericks as a Nazi spy, leading to Fredericks' resignation. See, this is where I think things get really funny involving the plot. See, they'll get you to a certain point. To me, this is classic Hollywood, right? This is how they bait you in. Is invited to join Skull and Bones. And then, of course, right, this is how they get a guy like me to go like, whoa, De Niro really dished it on the CIA, man. And then for years, I kind of think that De Niro like, yeah, I think he might be doing disclosure. Well, I took the bait, guys. I'm sorry. And I felt that way about this movie for a long time because, you see, I was only seeing this part. I didn't get down to the part where they start deceiving you about the real true nature of what the CIA is. And without getting into too much detail, they're a lot more in unison with this group here than they are with anything that, is really in honor of America. I'm being straight up with you guys. And so that's why I'm very suspect of this latest effort to integrate Hispanics, especially ones that have varying challenges that may have previously excluded them from joining the CIA, which again, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing if they open themselves up to more people that have, a broader range of whatever. I've thought about that at times if they weren't shorting themselves in intelligence circles by closing them off to people that have, I would say, some conditions perhaps that they've been labeled as within a DSM, but may actually be misunderstood. I think there's some things that are put into a DSM guide that have no business being there because the people that experience the phenomenon relative to what their, quote, abilities are, people on the outside don't know how to interpret their, quote, ability. And there's behaviors that surround it sometimes that they don't understand. Like, I'll give you an example, guys. Carrie Matheson was a character on the series Homeland. If you're familiar with Homeland, it's a Showtime series that's about a CIA agent played by Claire Danes. That and she's Carrie Matheson, and she's a person that's bipolar, and so she takes medication for it. I think she might have something else, but the point would be that they really do kind of amplify like her psychological impact, or like, what am I trying to say? Like, whenever she has challenges with her bipolarity, they really make sure to make it as over the top as possible within the episodes. But the show's not without merit. I mean, there's some excellent parts of it where you see Carrie, even though she's going through like a quote, medication withdrawal type episode or something to that effect, you get to witness her raw ability as an investigator, but you see how it all manifests. She's a person that in this episode, she's acting a little bit strange, guys. Of course, they're used to having her on something that keeps her pretty mellow. And then now she's not on it. And so she's hyper tuned into what I think, now that I reviewed it more carefully, there's this one episode where she literally has her boss, like he starts to become hip that something's wrong with her. He doesn't know that she needs medication. She's been able to hide it from the CIA. That's a realistic plot line, but okay. Anyways, but her boss has become kind of aware, but he knows that she has a gift for being an investigator. And she has this method of color coding. She does it based on behavior and color. And so when she's looking at investigations, especially when she's in this state of mind where she's a little bit more raw in her natural brain state, she literally reviews all the data with colored highlighters. And she's just smearing different lines of every article that she's printed out. And she's putting them like in different things. And she's saying like one, she's like, when he was definitely in the green mood now. He was in the green mood, definitely in the green mood. And she starts crossing all these words on it. And I know, guys, to the outside, people would go like, that's manic. That's insane. No. I've seen these types of things that have happened to people before, and it's not manic and it's not insane. What it is these people really know how to open up. Now, in some cases, guys, I can't speak for everybody, all right? But I know that in some cases, some people are really just creating this pathway where information just flows right into their brain. And it is such a rush and such an intense experience at that moment that, yeah, while you're processing it, it's there's a hyperactivity to it, I guess you could say, because you really can't control it coming in. And if you're a person that's not used to it, or you don't know what's happening and no one's given you permission to understand it in its appropriate form, yeah, they may call you something that you're not. Doesn't mean that people don't have that as a disorder. But when I look at her behaviors in some episodes, I'm thinking to myself, gosh, that really doesn't feel like a condition to me. It seems to me like if you put her in a conference room with the right people and had her doing this would be an amazing skill. Like nobody would even be questioning this. They would just be going like, oh, okay, make sure Saul's there because he understands her color coding. So then you would put her next to Saul, and Saul would be like going, oh, okay, so green is the mood for these people, and I have to put this up in this season, so let me organize this for you. And then he would be taking all of her things while she goes through them, and she's just processing things very, very fast. That's all she's doing. And then he's the one that's kind of there almost like an editor or something like that to go like, oh, okay, this needs to be contextualized up here on this part on the wall. All right, this is about this about this suspect. He met with suspect 4 over here, and his mood was this. So let's put this color chart next to that color chart. And he starts assembling all of it for her because he has good pattern recognition skills on top of her ability to decipher data very, very fast, like almost like a machine. And so that's really what's going on. And there's a scene in that same episode where she like lowers herself to the ground and she starts to feel the grass. And like when this happened, I totally understood her character, because she says, this is how it works. This is how it works. There's roots here. There is roots here. And trees get planted here, and the grass is here. And there's trees and there's grass and there's roots underneath. And this is how it works. This is how I get it. This is how I'm getting it. She wasn't manic. She had an epiphany. That's how you get it. It's one of the many ways. There's the earth grid. Some people get it primarily through the earth, and some people get most of their information from the collective consciousness. Now, they both have truth in them. And neither one is static truth or static lie, because it's all perception. That's the thing that I've been really trying to learn here. I'm not trying to get into an esoteric concept right now. What I'm saying is that there's some people, they think differently and they have some extremely unique skill sets, and I don't want to see them exploited and placed into a group that may do something malevolent with them. I think that people who have abilities like Carrie Mathison don't necessarily belong in an agency as destructive as the CIA. They belong doing something that's much more holy and significant. They belong probably doing something that's more about problem solving in a real way. And the series, I think that's tragic, you know, where it highlights all of her. Well, look, to me, it highlighted her attributes, even though the series shows them as disabilities. So in case you think I'm a person that's just like, well, you shouldn't hire these people, I'm not coming from that perspective at all. I'm just telling you, I see the psychological game that's going on here. They're going to get people that have been told for a lifetime, in many cases, that they have a quote DSM related, you know, illness. And then they're going to have a nice place for them right there at the FBI to exploit all that information decrypting ability, stage scenarios through which to harvest that data and get them to do other things that they probably wouldn't do otherwise if they knew what was going on, like they do to many people. So for me personally, I mean, I know, guys, we're going to have some degree of foreign intelligence, of course. You know, there's enemies all across the world. But see, I would rather us concentrate on, you know, not making enemies around the world, but on making friends around the world. And what I know about the CIA is it's almost like they make enemies so they have a job. Can you imagine that? It's almost like somebody going, you know, I have a restaurant and I want there to be more customers. So is there a way we can create circumstances where more people are in a starving or some shit like that? I mean, it's kind of like that. But it's more sinister once you really get down to its roots. But let's talk more about like what this really is. All right. Before I get too philosophical on everybody here, I want to show you what I'm talking about. So it's I am unapologetically me, and I want you to be unapologetically you, whoever you are, wherever you work at CIA or anywhere else in the world. Command your space. Mija, you are worth it. Servant leadership and courage. Guys, I know all the lingo. I know all the lyrical ways of selling this to people under false pretenses. This is in every corporate infrastructure, I can assure you, within America. I know it seems like I'm being kind of a whatever, right? Tom Morello kind of makes a good point. Silly me, I thought the CIA was evil because of their 70 years of war crimes, assassinating heads of state, torture, and crushing people's movements around the globe. And it turns out the real problem was a woke pamphlet. Well, Tom Morello, you'll be happy to know that I do have a balanced perspective on this one. It's both, guys. It's both. This is a ruse on America as a domestic operation. And as foreign operations, yes, everything Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine said there is true. That's not some liberal talking point. I mean, can we all agree? Is there just like, can we just have some balance here on what the truth is? I listened to Rage all my life, dude, like growing up and everything like that. Trust me, when I started having some strange, changes of my perspective on things, yeah, I was kind of like going, man, do all these like musicians that have been like kind of like my heroes and my favorite bands all these years, they probably think I was the lamest mother in the world now. And I'm not. This actually this took a lot of brain power to actually arrive at the conclusions that I have on some of these things. And I'm not 100% sold ever on anything. Yet, at some point you have to have some conclusions about what you think, knowing that reality is pretty malleable. It changes, I'm just so you know, guys, that whole thing about servant leadership, that was literally one of the like 5 pillars of success or chevrons of success at one of the corporations I worked at, that I was actually on the diversity council of for 3 years. So I would go to these meetings in Chicago, and I have to be honest with you guys. Like I shared this with some of my coworkers at the time. I was pretty embarrassed by the things that were being passed off as, quote, diversity. I thought they were more insulting to people of color than they were helping. I'm going to give you an example. And this is, guys, you tell me what you think of this. I'm just going to ask you, I don't care what race you are. How would you feel if this happened to you? In one of these things that I went to for a diversity council, I don't know, I wasn't on the diversity council yet. That's right. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to get on it, because this event just horrified me. And maybe it shouldn't have. Maybe I overreacted. But we went to, I don't want to say where or what company, but it was a company that was trying to like get their name out there. Human resources showed up and they were like, hey, we're going to be in this Martin Luther King Jr. parade and we're going to join in it. And we're going to march today along with everybody else as a corporate sponsor and help me, whatever, and things like that. Which, hey, you know what, guys, if you're financially supporting a parade that honors Martin Luther King, cool, whatever, I support that. No problems there. And here's where it failed. We show up and now it's about pushing our brand. Again, I understand they put money into it, but I really don't feel comfortable doing things that excessively push the brand that I'm working for while I'm in one of these parades. It's okay to financially support them and show up as a group and dedicate the resources. But I think if it's, MLK sponsored by generic company, then it's pretty bad. This is when it got just to the point where I wanted to put my head in the sand and walk away. And I'm not a bad guy, and I'm sure as shit not racist. But somebody, and I'll remind you, this person was in fact black, made the recommendation that we all go, they all start singing. This is what they wanted us to do, literally, was start singing, "We shall overcome through diversity." And then they wanted us to shout, like in 3 different like things, our corporate slogans and logos, and then yell out our name of our company, and then go back to saying, "We shall overcome through diversity." I was in shock and horror and shame. I could not bring myself to do this. I did not know what to do, to be honest with you. Because to me, this was just so tacky and so tasteless and so disgusting. And I couldn't believe that somebody that was asking me to do this was actually black. I couldn't understand it. I was thinking to myself, if this was like a Cesar Chavez or somebody familiar with, like within the Mexican community, and somebody asked me to literally integrate the corporate slogans within something as sacred as like a, "We shall overcome" type chant, or thing, to me, that was just like, oh my God. I just couldn't handle it, guys. Maybe, and see, this is where I'm a little different, guys. A lot of people that relate to me don't understand this duality of whatever. And this is just how I'm wired, guys. I can't be down with that. That felt so fake and so phony and so out of place. And it's not why I joined that. And it's not why I wanted to be a part of it. And I just was like, man. But to me, when I see things that are that sort of over the top and blatantly bad, I start to think, why was it done that way? Was this person actually ignorant, or was it more likely that they were encouraging something that was trying to look that over the top and ridiculous to intentionally offend or insult some people, but hide behind the veil of, oh, really? I didn't mean to do that. Because when you play dumb like that and act like, well, I didn't mean to do that, or something like that, like the CIA could potentially do with this, it's kind of like they're hiding behind the veil of the diversity aspect of it to slip in something that's so multifaceted. I wish I could, like, even, it would take me too long almost, but I'm going to try today to tell you about everything that they're doing with that commercial. Number one, within the United States, it is sending a message at a moment when border relations are so far beyond ridiculous. Like, I mean, there's issues, guys. People are not agreeing on this one. And it's one of those things where, again, I'm on this strange part of it where I go, you guys can, if you really want your wall, fine. It's just not going to do you any good. All that wall does for you, sorry, I know you don't want to hear this. All that wall's doing for you is it's a pretty effective shield at bouncing radio frequency signals from Mexico away from the border of America. That's about its biggest advantage, I would say, as far as things that it does for America, because Mexico doesn't control its radio frequency spectrum very well, and neither does the US when it comes to their border. And I mean, they try to a degree, but signals cross, right? And so United States manages its frequencies, but as soon as you cross the border, it's like, hey, what are you going to do about it? You're going to stop me from using that airwave? Think about it, guys. Same thing with Canada. That's why you have to have some degree of border relations that are pretty good because of frequencies and airwaves. See, there's more things going on now than just people crossing the border. All right. And so, again, I don't object to your thing with it or anything like that, guys. I'm explaining to you that if that's your goal, it's not the most effective way, because the underground tunnels are really what achieves the economy relative to that. Okay, it's about the tunnels. It's about underground tunnels, and the CIA knows this. And this is what I think is really kind of going on at a deeper level, guys. But the reason why I'm telling you this is because I became hip to a whole bunch of these social justice movements, really on top of other things, guys. I don't want to exclusively pick on ones that are related to race. Race-related ones are just one of their favorite ones because they are such polarizing issues. They do get people pissed off. And so that CIA thing, that's what it's designed to do. Number one is deviate people. How do I say it? Like right now, as we're having this border issue and people are arguing over the wall, it's like it's sort of changing a debate. I've been trying to get people on this notion that, okay, guys, fine, you have your wall, but there are tunnels that take people, like deep underground tunnels that are routed between central Mexico into the United States that are doing the vast majority of the trafficking. And if you think the CIA doesn't know this, guys, all right. I mean, you know what I cover as far as like where certain groups went when they got into the United States after World War II. Many evaded down to Mexico. So again, guys, I'm not trying to stress this as the primary point, but yes, paperclip, Central Mexico, breeding cults, the Finders cult, CIA. Yes. In fact, guys, I really can't talk about this without talking about the Finders cult and the CIA, because the CIA basically is the Finders cult. And a big part of what the Finders cult did was traffic children to Mexico who were special, had strong brains, had, special learning abilities. And they were caught actually trafficking 6 children in a dirty van with a dirty mattress. And the children were all bug bitten and bed bugs. And they were all like, they were dirty. Some of these kids, when they were questioned, did not know what telephones were or television. And they were in the single digits. I mean, I think the youngest one might've been like a few years old, but nearly all of them were at the point where they could at least answer a few basic questions to a police officer. And that's the kind of things that have been going on, guys, is like these types of trafficking operations in the 80s were being revealed and connected to the Finders. And the CIA would step in and tell other agencies, special agents from the FBI, customs agents, I think is what it was, telling them to back off and that the Finders was with the CIA and you can't touch this. And this is our problem, guys. There's things that happen like that. I mean, think that through a little bit. I mean, 6 kids were being trafficked to Mexico, and all it took was this agency, the CIA, stepping in on that case, and everybody said, well, it's the CIA. I'm not supposed to even question them. The FBI is like going, well, they're bigger than us. Are they? I thought it was jurisdiction. I thought you guys are pretty much the same thing. See, in the FBI, you've got the domestic thing covered, and then the CIA's got the foreign thing covered. But power-wise, you're about equal, aren't you? It's just your jurisdiction. FBI is supposed to handle things on U.S. soil. CIA is supposed to handle things on foreign soil. So you're starting to see a little bit of the handshake that's going on here, guys. What we're really seeing is the same methods are being used by both Director Wray of the FBI as well as the heads of the CIA. What they're really trying to do now is create a race war within America that the FBI pretends does not exist. Then what are they going to do? They begin importing these Operation Paperclips. Sorry, guys, but it's true. They started breeding started breeding programs down in Mexico and raised many Mexican children to have those values. They oftentimes run cartels. They run some of the most brutal cartels. Some are even known, guys, and I'm not joking, for the way to get in is to kill somebody and eat their heart. That's how you join. Now, these types of brutal cannibalistic types of traditions have been getting integrated into their culture more and more. And you know why that happens? Same people that came in 1945 and they had partners waiting here. Now, again, guys, that's the breeding aspect. That's the genetics aspect. It happened in pockets in the United States, but where it went really unregulated and unchecked, including with American kids in Mexico, they were taking them down there to be raised amongst those cartels, then put them back up into the United States. That way, the ones that are in the cartels have partners once they get back up here. They were raised as kids within the breeding cults in Mexico that were, in fact, controlled by, well, yes, the paperclips. All right? This is why, guys, I'm just helping you understand why my research, I have to cover that topic to some degree, because if I don't, then you won't really know where these people are coming from and why some people, they love to sell you on the idea that it's always racism. Yes, guys, sometimes people just don't like Mexicans and they're bigots. And fuck those people, because I don't like them either, okay? I don't like people like that. I'll tell you why, guys, because I used to deal with people that did shit like that. They would blame Mexicans for something they just did in front of me. And I go, dude, you just put that garbage on the ground. You're blaming them and shit like that, you know? But what I'm trying to say here, though, guys, is that this is basically a very, very methodic way to create this using these kids that were in the breeding programs to bring them up into America under the guise of they just want the American dream. Don't you bigots understand? Why are you being such racists? But see, this is a con. I'm sorry, guys. Stop it. This is a con. It's a con. You're bringing in a select group and you're acting as if they're that one that you're actually talking about. You know what, guys? I'm cool with it. I want everybody to have opportunities. As long as we have them to offer and we have a thriving economy, I say I would love there to be lots of people, that have opportunities. Great. Whether here or elsewhere, I want more people to have more jobs available to them as many places as possible. But with the understanding of what the CIA does is they create the destabilization in Mexico to begin with. And then guess what they have? Problem, reaction, solution. Hegelian dialect 101. They're the ones making things a problem with drugs, human trafficking in Mexico. Oh, but here they are, guys. Here they are. Mija, you're good enough. Never mind that we're the ones that destroyed your country and fucked you up. Now we're going to bring you into the United States traumatized and anchored in that trauma that we created for you. Welcome to the CIA, mija. Welcome to the CIA, mija. Welcome to the CIA. Hey, pendejo, you think I don't know who's planning this? Yeah, I know who's planning this, dude, because I can play the role just as well as anybody else. Does that convince you guys? Am I authentic enough now? You want me to do my Mi Familia impression? I can do it just like Edward James Olmos in the movie. It was a long path of migration. Me and Nina and Pinto and Tito and Cheto and Nana, we all made it across the border. But if you asked my grandfather, he said, this is Aztlan. It's already pinche Mexico. And he wasn't going to move from nobody. Sorry, that's not a very good Edward James Olmos impression, but I used to do Mi Familia. It was like when, Nena was out there and she wasn't going no place for nobody. I don't know. I'm not really doing it good now. I haven't watched a movie in years, to be honest with you, but I do enjoy Mi Familia. Guys, I'm not, look, I love stories that are about people, starting over and creating a better life. And I'm inspired by those things in real ways, man. When somebody really fights and makes it, I'm inspired by that. I get goosebumps thinking about it. But that's not what these are, guys. What these are is that they're starting these farms down, just like they had hog farms here, or they call them human genome farms. They did them here in the US and they have them in Mexico. But the ones in Mexico, they can get away with doing things in the United States you could never get away with. And some of those kids are brutally traumatized, sexually traumatized from a very early age, which makes them extremely programmable, extremely angry inside. And then the people that did this to them, they make sure that that anger never, ever, ever, ever gets addressed in any meaningful, real way. They want that little nugget of rage buried away as an implantable trigger that they can tap into anytime and make that person go like, yes, this person I need to kill. They've got to be able to inspire that in you. So please don't ever, like the best that you can, guys. They always want you to like make peace with the idea in your mind that somebody deserves to die for what they've done or, whatever. And I'm not telling you that there's not merit to that. Yeah, some people, they should be really seriously punished. But these people are like over the top with it. They're slash and burn on everything, on the most basics of things, guys. Tell me. I want to go there right now, but yeah. So when I see this whole thing where she says, mija, you're good enough, that even the phraseology of it, and you're worth it, you're good enough, you're worth it, mija, I just know the language, man. And I can't remember, she says that she has another condition. So the point was that they were trying to basically, I think, knowing how challenging it is to get a job anywhere right now. This is kind of the CIA's way of saying, like, if you know what we are for real, we don't want you in our organization. We have computers that can do all the thinking for us. What we really need is expendable human assets. So we're going to masquerade this in, we love you, we care about you, we accept you, mija, you're good enough. Well, you're good enough to die. You're good enough to be used. You're good enough to be exploited. You're good enough to be discarded. That's the reality of the CIA. You were born to have this done to you, and they're the ones that probably engineered it. Mija. Just telling you. Now, I don't know what the solution is, guys, because look, I would like to help my country. So where would I go if I wanted to? What's the agency that a person of my skill set and talent would join? I want to help. I volunteered my time. I'm doing this for free. By the way, guys, I need money. Those of you, I got to pay something today. So I got my room taken care of, but I got a couple other things that are still happening. So there's contribution details inside the things below. So I just wanted to put that out there as a reminder. Yeah, that's part of the other reason why I'm doing an afternoon feed here today, guys. I just didn't want it to be like I need funds. I want to give you guys some value here. So this is the core of the material. It's not fundraising. It's just to say that, yes, if those who can, please do. And thank you. But let me continue here. CIA, though, within this whole thing within Mexico, I'm going to show you some documentation that backs up everything that I'm saying, so you don't just think I'm pulling this out of my whatever. Ted Gunderson was an FBI agent, and he was a serious reformer. Those unfamiliar, there's some pretty legendary speeches and interviews between Ted Gunderson and others, or speeches where he did his own material. A lot of it's from the VHS days, so it's like kind of hard to hear sometimes. You got to really pay attention to it because the quality's so bad on the clips. But I tell you what, again, it's sensitive material, folks. They tell you everything in these things, and it's going to make you sad potentially after you hear it. So I'm going to remind you, if you ever do watch any Ted Gunderson material, especially when he brings on some of the guests that have been parents with abused children, you're going to potentially hear some ugly stories. And Ted Gunderson wrote this huge report as a former FBI agent, where he had been investigating the Finders cult and its founder, Marion David Petty, and all their operations for a number of years. And my fear is that what Ted Gunderson was going through to some degree is what a lot of current FBI agents go to, and what the ones that are a little bit like the real life, mija, you're good enough people. You know what I mean? They're getting duped. They're getting fooled, because I think at the high levels, they're just letting computing and processing that way do things. And they really just want controllable people that won't talk, that'll just take the money, that are just happy to be there. That's what they want. And so there's a lot of different groups you can get away with doing that to. And guys, this is just the reality. When you're from another country and you come into America, this is going to seem like, you want me? Oh, no, they don't. They do and they don't. You're human shields, guys. This is what they do to everybody. Look at Auntie Faye when they go out for, that's my new nickname, guys. You like that? From now on, I'm going to call Antifa Auntie Faye because it's just safer. Does that work for everybody? Auntie Faye? In case you're wondering what my slide was talking about. Yeah, Director Ray does not see his Auntie Faye. Auntie Faye is, she's just over there. I just ignore Auntie Faye. She's just a little bit nutty. Yep, old Auntie Faye. I don't know, man. Isn't it interesting that we have Auntie Faye and Director Ray, and that Faye Ray was in King Kong? Fa Ray. Faye Ray. You know what's interesting too is Faye, FA means frequency allocation. And frequency allocation is a term that, well, is needed. It's used by a lot of these people that run mobile cloud servers. How does that work? I'm trying to think of a way to explain this to people. Oh, that's a good one too. Yeah, Aunt Tifa. Yeah, I like Auntie Faye. It kind of, but yeah, I get it. Yeah. To me, it just sounds more like a real auntie's name. Like, well, I just want to talk to my Auntie Faye. You could get away with that one out in the open a little bit easier than Tifa. but kudos. Yeah. But all right. So the Finders cult aspect of it, though. So Ted Gunderson had been researching this pretty significantly for a long time, and the thing that I've learned is that they get duped. I think because I think I'm a pretty good intuitive, and it doesn't mean that I'm always right, but I didn't get a sense that Ted Gunderson was lying. I didn't get a sense that Ted Gunderson was one of these characters that is just there to like sell you on a shocking story that's really a code for the other economy. I think he had actually happened upon all this information in his travels, and he was reporting in earnest. So I know what people might say is like, how could a guy with his expertise as an FBI agent gather up that much information? And then you, Gabriel, would say, well, I think Ted Gunderson is right, but I'm also going to dismantle his report and tell you everything that's wrong with it. Why would I say that? because I think good intentioned people do decrypts like he did all the time, and that they're doing it with the best information they have available at the time. I think Ted Gunderson put together an exceptionally good report with a lot of details about the Finders cult that once I had a chance to review all of them, I could see the summation of the data to go, some of this has been fictionalized. Now, it's a real cult. It's a real thing that happens. In fact, let's stop calling it the Finders cult, because I think that takes away from the seriousness. The Finders is a human trafficking organization, okay, that hides behind the illusions of cults, because the illusions of cults are so effective at making people go, there's an implied that the people joined it, and got involved with something and then took something too far, or blah, 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 instead of it being more about what it really is. I mean, it's intense MK, it's intense, all of those things, right? And all right. So the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because I've been fooled by some of the information that I've found relative to things before myself. It's extremely sophisticated the way that they can reverse people's perceptions by placing a series of, now again, when Ted Gunderson wrote his report, the internet wasn't as big of a factor, okay? He was mostly, I think, establishing that report in the 80s and the 90s, mostly in the 90s, I think, is when he was doing his report. So not a lot of internet things available. And so he was really a guy that had to go out and hit the pavement and look things up and get reports and file requests for reports. And this is where I've been kind of getting down to is, what is the ecosystem of fakery? And again, guys, I'm going to say this by prefacing, if I've been abusive to the local FBI at times, it's because I'm deeply disappointed at just the lack of interest. It's one thing, guys, if you're, you have some differences in opinion and everything else like that. But to me, it just seemed like there's no way in hell, with everything that I've shown you that's legit, that you could just justify your total lack of interest in my material. It seems to me almost like you're welcoming the problem. So you can understand why a person would take my perspective, maybe not even having any understanding of what you deal with day to day. Maybe it never even reaches your desk. Maybe you're in a reality tunnel where I don't exist. And maybe that's why I go to the front of your office, to make sure that Gabriel Cruz exists. And if you'll listen to me, I'd like to reach your heart a little bit with some information that maybe has been spun for you too. And that's why I was always trying to be nice to them, guys. I'm not some ass kisser. I'm not some person that's under any kind of illusions that we had things like, COINTELPRO, or that there were elements of the FBI that did horrible things to people at times. But I have to start with what we have. I have to start with who the federal agency is that's in charge of federal law enforcement within America. That is the FBI. And if the FBI, after I've given them many, many sets of compelling data sets and information sets, fail to respond, then there has to be something. And if there isn't, then we'll create a precedent through which to justify it. There must be some way when this happens through which that we can actually enforce the law in absence of the FBI, doing it, because they're not. Okay. Now, let's talk about what that really translates to in America if we have an agency that kind of has, through whether it's through its own actions or through things that have been done to it, seems to have been rendered pretty toothless at this point and only kind of handling things. I mean, it occurred to me, guys, like when I was in the wireless industry, for example, all right, and I was a technician especially, or an engineer that had to respond like I was doing system performance or things that were maintenance related, meaning to say the performance on a day-to-day basis all operates on percentages of how everything's operating on the tower. So if you're not familiar, I can give you a quick rundown. Like when I was in system performance, my job was to make sure those statistics on every cell tower I was responsible for were near perfect, or as close to perfect as you can get, which would mean no drop calls if possible, or if you do have any dropped calls on them, that they're as few as possible, and that percentage had to be below a certain threshold for me to even meet any of the criteria. Wow, dude, I'm totally forgetting why I'm even talking about this, but that's a problem too, because then I'm getting totally deviated away from why I'm talking about this to begin with. But statistics and numbers and everything else like that. But anyways, guys, I mean, effectively though, my job revolved completely around statistics and numbers relative to how I perform these functions. And I couldn't get away with doing something that didn't have accurate numbers and statistics. Gosh, dude, I'm sorry. I'm battling some serious things right now, guys, with some of these the technology. So I apologize. My back is killing me. On that note, guys, you do understand that it is a thing. And anyways. All right, hang on. All right, so Ted Gunderson and what he was finding, though, and FBI agents getting hoodwinked, because I want to make sure I handle this appropriately. I just feel like it's easy to manufacture narratives for them as much as it is for all of us. And so, yeah, I get a little pissed off at them for their lack of interest, but I'm also aware, that this is why I talked about statistics. That in my job when I was at the tower company, I had a ticketing system that would tell me like which towers were having bad statistics or had dropped calls that were too much or whatever. And it occurred to me, and there's another one that we had that handled, it was called Remedy actually, that handled customer tickets. And so it set timers on it to where you had to respond by a certain time. And that way, again, the ticketing system's all there to say, all right, once this person's done all their part, and if they can't solve the problem, it gets handed off to this group. Then they have this much time to respond and accept it. They have this much time to talk to the customer and follow up, blah, blah, blah. It's just there to make sure you don't forget about customers. You don't forget about your tasks. I'm thinking that what goes on with the FBI, especially knowing that Science Applications International Corporation, a CIA front company, has basically managed a lot of their information, is that they could have, when they got a contract for the virtual case file, was just create portals into the FBI through which most things just aren't getting reported. And when they do get reported, they're swapped out for a fake case that is managed by crisis actors that some insiders at the FBI know about, but it's mostly something that I think is at a DOJ partnering with Department of Energy through a National Security Directorate and Smith-Mundt Authorization Act hack, and I can show you documents on that gave them the ability to do propaganda on American soil. And they've done that forever, guys. I mean, basically. And all this is give them a legal gateway to use teams of tens of thousands of crisis actors to just manufacture narratives, guys, en masse, all around the country. Now they're able to do it legally, put it on the news, and in some cases have official government support. What that means, though, is really, really dicey because so many different groups can do it now. Before, it was bad enough, guys, when it was just simply that the State Department could do it to other countries. That's one thing you could make arguments for, that they could create propaganda for other countries. All right, sure, I guess that's what all countries do to some degree. But then, oh, shit. Ow, ow, oh, shit. Something at my elbow, sorry. Wow, I almost never feel pain like that. What the hell was that? Now I can't remember what the hell I was talking about, damn it. Wow, that hurt. That totally wiped out my memory, you guys. Can somebody please tell me? Manufacturing narratives. God, dude, it sent such a shower of pain through my body. I'm sorry. I just lost every thought in my mind. It was that bad. It's almost winded me. Like some nerve and like a pinched nerve inside my elbow. All I did was set down my elbow for a second. Oh, man. All right. Okay, so yeah, they're creating the narratives to trick the CIA. The CIA, I think, is actually using these teams of like tens of thousands of crisis actors, and I have business records and everything, along with people at the DOJ, to simply think about it, guys. The FBI, to report anything domestic, would have to go through some central portal to get those reports. If SAIC, a CIA front company, gained access to all their computers back in the early 2000s, which they did, and I can show you all the evidence of this. I have many different examples of it. I mean, guys, not just that, but the same lab also had Trailblazer, the William Binney whistleblower case, all that. Yeah, foreign intelligence gathering, domestic intelligence gathering. Guess who's always in there? SAIC, CIAS. Huh. All right. Who's managing the FBI's perceptions? I think it's the CIA and these crisis actors along with insiders of the DOJ. And so if you're at the FBI and you're there to enforce the law, you're being spun in a million different directions. And so to those of you who are doing it in earnest and you're just getting duped, I really am. I want you to know I do apologize for being like verbally shitty to you. That's all. I'm being straight up with you, because I think that what you do is honorable, and you don't deserve to be mistreated for putting yourselves out there and trying, especially in an era right now where everybody's trying to create more adversaries and enemies. So that's not my goal. But I also need you to understand how deeply disappointed I am by how things have gone as a citizen who tried to correct the information portals for you and with you. I mean, I did, because I think that that's what's happening. It's a little bit like I said, the trouble ticket thing. All right, say I'm an engineer at the wireless company, right? Say I'm the FBI. And actually, guys, what's weird about this, when you're in system performance engineering at a wireless company, you are the FBI of the, I mean, not literally, but you're the forensic troubleshooter. You're the person that handles things at the high level within the network, just like the FBI does within law enforcement in America. We knew this so much in system performance that certain teams around the country had shirts that said SPE, System Performance Engineer, and the font and the colors were exactly like those shirts that the FBI wears. Seriously. That's how much they drew the correlation between what they did in system performance and what the FBI does within law enforcement. I had that job and I was in that department for many years. I was a SPE, System Performance Engineer, for a few years. And then I was a radio frequency engineer that's also part of a system performance radio frequency engineering team that does all these types of things. So I know how it's all perceived and how it is. Like a guy that fixes cell towers, that's like a cop that drives around and answers calls that way. I did that job. Then I had the job where it's more like the things that get reported at the high level up through the ticketing system, the FBI. Okay, that's the other job I had after I was the other one. See, so I was always able to relate back to the other group things like this. And this is what I'm trying to help you out with in law enforcement, because I see a parallel here. I see a parallel where there's a disconnect between what's happening on the streets and what's happening with you internally at the FBI. And I'm concerned that there's good people there that are being turned into people that would see us cynical. And I don't want to contribute to that. So what I'm here to tell you is, if you want to do something in earnest and everything, and you just want to start over, then I think there's a lot of other people out there that want to do the same thing with you, and that they'll welcome you if you understand the problem. And I think some of you do. I saw some of you FBI agents, especially in Las Vegas, that were super uncomfortable during that whole Harvest 91 thing. I could see it, the body language. A whole bunch of you just didn't feel right. And you know what? You have the right to not feel right about that. You have the right to feel suspicious about that and not be told that you're crazy, or be told that there's something wrong with you, or that you're a dissenter, or you're a person that's, Alex Jones. No, you're not. You're actually tapping into something that they're trying to force down you as much as they are the rest of us. And so, again, I'm going to reach out and say, just to be a better person, that I wasn't trying to be that way to you. And I'm not kissing anybody's ass. Let me be really clear about that. I'm just being human with you. There's no ass kissing here. But I'll be human, because I want the same kind of considerations. I wouldn't want somebody coming at me kissing my ass either. I just want to know that they understand it, and that they're not, doing things to me, in a negative way. So I'm going to tell you again, those of you who want to do something, the right thing, and you've seen the problem, and you know it's information flow, you need to get with me. You need to help me as much as I need to help you, because we're all in this together and we all got the same problem. They're effing with our information flow. And if you don't understand that, if you don't understand how where you get your information from is everything, then you won't see how this group has controlled all of our collective perceptions as masterful as Kim Jong-un did with North Korea. It's more effective, because in North Korea, they're aware that it's happening. We aren't here. That's the problem. See, in North Korea, they have such fear of the state. It's just like, no, please, I did not say anything against the state. Please, please. No, don't do anything to me. I'm sorry. Please don't. And here we're just like, yeah, fuck you, you're the man. And you don't even know who you're flipping off. See, that's the trick on America. You have the illusion of the freedom right now within your information flow, and you're flipping off the wrong guy or gal every time. That's the problem. And see here, what it's designed to do is just to get all of us in a destabilization matrix. They want all of us in this battle, this duality thing. So, yeah. So here's what I'm trying to say, guys, is that, you know, there's information flow problems and there's reformers, and I'm just trying to reform it. I'm just trying to be one of the people that provides a group, and I'd prefer if we were contractors and that you got with me about this. I'm honest. I'm offering again. I'm doing this publicly because I don't want to do anything that's like, you know, do. I want to be very public about this, and I want you guys to know how effed and the whole world and the whole country deserves to know how effed our information flow environment is. That way, when we unwind it, we'll do what's called an after action report. It's one of the most brilliant things I think that's done by the military. We did it in the wireless industry too, because we had so many former military that nearly everything we did had some degree of like intelligence or government or military aspects to it. It's just the way it is, guys. Like right down to your grades and the reports you have to write. I mean, there's so many parallels to the way the military is, because a lot of your bosses like were former Air Force, Marines, Army, that kind of thing, that they learn all the best aspects of organization and accountability through their experience there, and they integrate it into corporate infrastructure. Those parts I didn't have a problem with, to be honest with you. And a lot of people like really, oh, an after action report. No, nobody likes to do it. But see what you're doing basically, and I'll explain to you what it is. It's just basically where it's a series of questions that said like, what happened? When did it happen? Why did it happen? What is the course of action you took to correct it? And what can be done to prevent it next time? And what could you have done better to finish it quicker? Or, you know, could it have been done quicker? Or could it have done better? It's just a way for you to review if you're trying to better yourself, your organization, and in this case, your country. Then yes, then you would care about that report because it would hold greater meaning than your personal discomfort writing it. And that's all I'm asking for us here in this country in America, is for us to have a similar type of integrity internally, and that we take this seriously, and that we share our learnings with the world to say that, yeah, guys, this is something that happened to us. And as a result, it caused some problems globally, and we're sorry. And, you know, we would like to have some, you know, whatever for that. We guys, you know, as proud as we are and as strong as we are and as good as we are of a country, sometimes we just have to sort of say like, this is kind of a problem and we may need a little bit of help managing our way out of it. Now, America's doing a great job on its own. I think right now there are plans in place that are, in fact, if the information that I have is correct, again, I always say if, it does seem as if there is and again, I've been even given insights into the pathways and the routes. So do I doubt it? No, not really. But one of the ways they're doing it is to, on coastal regions, for example, is to do these things. And they told me look, guys, I got these little messages from the sidelines saying that I was a part of it and the material I was doing on the coast, that I was sort of like a messenger angel for certain people because they can't do it. And so I would sit there by the ocean, I would get my messaging and I would do my thing. Right. And that's it, guys. I get it very, very strong there. And I've had validations when I'm on the coast that it's working. It's because brainwave frequency is less interruptible the closer you are to the water, and that you have fewer interruptions from the land-based towers, because there's no towers that can hit you in the water. Agreed? There's no tower that can be erected 10 feet out from the beach line and aimed in at you on the beach. They don't exist. Maybe there's some that exist that are like that, but they're very rare, and I'm sure they cost $1 billion to buy to engineer. And I'm sure everybody complained when they went up, if they exist. But no, it's normally not something that cell phone carriers do. They don't try to cover the ocean, and they don't try to aim way down the water because it's not their territory. Their territory is the land. And so that's one of the reasons why I make appeals to people about the value of doing things for a number of reasons on the coast. You get line of sight if you're on the beach line, or you have more areas where there is line of sight. And the closer you are to the coastline, the closer you are to the brainwave harmonic that allows you to receive this type of communication undisturbed and uninterrupted. And it is such a thing, guys. And this is all studied in the Stargate documents relative to grill flame, Sunstreak, grill flame. There's one called something gondola. I can't remember. But there's quite a few of these projects and sub-projects that involve psychic research. That the other tip-off that I got was that SAIC, as a CIA-managed company, intentionally sabotaged the data sets so that the government would not know the value of the psychic research. And that's another one of the things that, because I offered my assistance, that we're potentially going to be doing things to correct that. So I don't know, guys. I hope. But, it's hard for me to fully accept sometimes when I'm whittled down to next to nothing and I'm wondering where the next dollar is going to come from. So if I think that part wasn't happening as much, I think that I would personally have a little bit more faith in it myself, and I wouldn't be sitting here questioning it as often as I do. But I also understand why they do that. They're trying to catch people doing things with my accounts and my IP environment. And so sometimes I just have to be patient and just, let those things transpire and let them catch them, and then they always fix it for me after the fact. So I don't know. I mean, or somebody comes around and helps out. And to all of those of you who do, thank you very much, because I do appreciate it greatly, and you do keep me going. And I want you to know that it's meaningful for a lot of reasons. This isn't an easy thing to do, because I have to have faith in certain processes. And I'm also aware that these people can't get information to me. Sometimes everything that I'm telling you right now, especially as it's reaching its cusp, it's like they're able to now, guys. Before, they were trying to operate in secret, the ones that are doing the backdoor hacks with our infrastructure. And now they're a little bit more directly challenging people, I guess, that are internal within the military, is my understanding, that they're taking the posture of it being a civil war, because they're taking advantage of the fact that the military will not acknowledge that it is a civil war. So if one group is fully taking advantage of the fact that they know that they've declared one, and that the people that are fighting the other side can't make it known. And I think, I'm not sure if they can't, I think it's that they're opting not to, because they know the media will turn it into a martial law, oppressive military, this is everything that you were fearing. And then they're going to act like they're the heroes that are helping you. And all the reporters will show up to be like, oh, overreaching government. When it's all really designed, guys, to actually remove power from private corporations that have been buying and selling our information wholesale to foreign governments and partnering with them to steal our elections and other shit like that. Not trying to get into that debate here, guys, but it happened, okay? Just accept it. It got stolen. He's not your guy. Nobody really wanted him. The Dems didn't even want Biden. So, I mean, please, stop already. More people wanted Donald Trump as president. Stop saying that Biden was the most popular president ever. He never was. Nobody fucking likes the guy. Just stop already. I'm just telling you, as a person that used to buy most of the Democrat lines, man. I mean, at best, you would say the guy's like, well, people kind of like him on the right. But they don't even say that anymore. They used to say that. Yeah, Joe Biden, he can kind of reach across the aisle. That was what he was known for, guys. But see, they said the same thing about McCain, and look what he was about. So again, I agree. I think it's good to be able to reach across the aisle. I'm trying to do it by telling people that maybe you should just accept that there is no aisle. The aisle is the illusion. The map is not the territory. We're creating the territory with our minds. We're creating the maps. We're creating the boundaries, and we're creating the borders. So, yeah. All right. So I don't want to get too far off topic, but I will answer some of these questions. Okay. I want to keep on the topic of reality tunnels. Robert Anton Wilson talks about reality tunnels a lot in his material, how a person's entire, decision-making process and the way they structure their reality is impacted by the information they accept and process and internalize and allow in. And that people place themselves in separate reality tunnels all the time. And he talked about this at length. He talked about he was like, well, there's a lot of times that I was in a vegetarian reality tunnel for many years. Well, where if I went into a butcher market, just seeing the sight of meat would make me ill, and I couldn't even handle it. And for a while, I don't know, whatever it is, through a series of things that happened, I lost my vegetarian reality tunnel. And then for some strange reason, I never got repulsed at all going into a meat market. It's things like that where he's like, I agree. Like, it's the information that you're placing yourself in, because, like, for example, for me, I learned, and I internalized it, that there's a trauma that you can have programmed into materials, that whether it's food that you eat, whether it could be a cereal, guys, that the trauma's in, and that there's trauma that can be programmed into meat that you eat. But the difference between trauma in something that's more plant based and the trauma that's placed into meat would be the way that your body absorbs said trauma, if you don't separate or transmute said materials as part of your process. And I really felt like there was something to this, the idea that you absorb the trauma, of that. And it's mostly because I just had a very strange event where I was surrounded in a field by cows, and they all looked at me, and it felt like this really meaningful, like, damn, you're really looking at me like you're thinking something. Shit. But I really like hamburgers and steak. Damn it. I mean, that's kind of what was happening to me when that happened, guys. I mean, and it happened to me for years after that. It took me years and years and years of processing that moment where I looked at him and I was like, I can't. I'm sorry. But look, guys, if that's your thing, I don't judge you. I'm not the kind of person that, like, because something like that happened to me, that I suddenly turn around and I'm just like, how could you? How could you? No, I mean, I don't lack self-awareness that much or anything like that. So, I didn't mean to get into that topic or anything, but it's a reality tunnel thing. You see what I'm saying? And if somebody told me later on, like, well, Gabe, everything is all energy, and when you know that everything's entirely energy and that it dissipates this way and that way, do you still perceive that steak the same? And I'm yes and no. But you see, when people present new information to you, you have to be able to, like, start to reevaluate a little bit. And that's why Robert Anton Wilson existed he calls it a maybe existence or a maybe world. He doesn't statically believe anything 100%. He leaves his mind open for new options and new opportunities and new thought forms and new ideas, things that he hadn't considered before. He'll allow himself to be, quote, reprogrammed. He'll allow his circuits to change if he's presented with new information. So he doesn't stay stuck in the reality tunnel. So let's talk about where, when you're in the government or the military, that this thing that Robert Anton Wilson can do relative to perception of reality is not as easily available to these people because of the rules that we're stuck in. It's like me. I have all kinds of things that I can do as an investigator because I'm liberated to do that. I'm not in a controlled environment like the people at the FBI are in. And I may not be able to do what I do as an investigator if I was in that environment. And, this is something that I was even trying to tell them when I was offering my help initially. It's like, I know you don't get my process, and you may just look at me from a distance and go like, that doesn't do anything, but it does. It's a different theme, but there's a song by Pulp where he says, maybe to the untrained eye, I'm sitting on my ass all day, but I'm biding time. And, there's more to the song than that. But what I'm saying, though, is that what looks to you sometimes as a pointless exercise in data association, or reviewing something in a spiral or a loop or in repetition for information, or maybe you don't understand why I do certain things with, like, the 80s films and seeing those things in loops. Like, that might confuse you because you haven't exposed yourself to the science that makes it a reality yet. And so then what I try to do is tell people, like, listen, you'll be in much better investigators, and you'll open yourself up to a much broader range of data through which to gather information for investigations that could save America or potentially prevent a terrorist threat or action against us, if you learn some of the techniques that I've been actually explaining to people. They're very valuable. And I do think that they have intelligence gathering and military applications that are good. And that the reason why that you're not hearing about them is because the people that managed all that are part of this destabilization agenda that are creating things like, Mija, you're good enough. They're also the ones that say, like, psychic research doesn't exist. Look how stupid it is. Look at the 3 people that we have in charge of it and how dumb they are. And that's what they'll do. Then they put out nothing but, like, going like, yeah, well, I was the best remote viewer. My name is Farsi Searfar. Yep, I was born with that name, Farsi Searfar. And I was the best remote viewer in the 70s for SRI. Yep, the lab that handled all the psychic research. And then that's how they sell it, right? And then you come back and you go, wait, didn't SAIC have all that research? Weren't they in charge of like 90% of it at the end or something like that? Yeah, but it started SRI. Okay, and I know that you put that in all the information, but who did you inherit from SRI at SAIC? Didn't you inherit all their employees? Yeah. So isn't it SAIC's? It's the same lab that managed the virtual case file for the FBI. I don't mean to make this an SAIC discussion, guys, but I don't feel like I can talk about the CIA without talking about SAIC. One is a mirror of the other. I think they're the same thing. They just don't come right out and say it. So what I think is going on, guys, and if you study SAIC at a corporate infrastructure and you know how cozy they are with the CIA, then you're going to see the roots of all the fakery. SAIC has so many fake boards of directors, fake CEOs. It's just, it's aggravating how much they get away with. I don't get it. It's bizarre. I was trying to think of a way that I can summarize this in the reality tunnel aspect of what I'm talking about with this particular issue. I'm going to talk more about, let's see here. I'm trying to think like, okay, with the reality tunnel aspect of it, I want to talk about what that would translate to in all actuality. Like I said, the trouble ticketing system. All right. Like when I was in wireless, I would get a trouble ticket system that would say, you need to address this problem and call the customer back by this much time, and then close out the ticket with the solution and what you did. Right? Okay. So the FBI must have something similar with their case files and their caseloads. I think one of these was called VCF. And my understanding is, yes, SAIC did in fact get a contract to do that for them, and they totally hosed it up, left them with broken software and a whole bunch of doped hardware. So what do you think that they're still existing in today? Probably a lot of SAIC computers that had doped hardware and bogus software. The irony is, I think that then after they screwed it up and they lost everything, then they just got hired right back to fix it. It's so strange what goes on with that company, you guys. It doesn't matter what happens or how much they screw up. They always get hired back. It's just nobody with a real job could ever have this kind of like track record in earnest, man. You could never get away with this, but they do. It's weird. So I think what they do is they are kind of conscious and aware of how all the information flows because they're controlling it. So if there's something that's a CIA drug trafficking operation or human trafficking operation and they want to steer everybody off, they can just print the story, guys. Literally, like 33 Haitian children stolen from Haiti, right, by Laura Silsby. Guys, I promise you that whoever did that was a different name or a different group of people, and that Laura Silsby was just placed there to be the puppet character that pisses everybody off. The unresolved. It's there to send the reminder here in America and the rest of the world that this is how it all works. This is what the norm is in America. And then people in America are mostly clueless about how this is all going down. And the rest of the world just sits at us and goes like, you guys just look like a bunch of fucking human traffickers over there. What would you think if this happened? If you were like the rest of the world looking in at the United States and you saw them pull something as shitty as what happened with those Haitian children's relative to Hillary's State Department at the time. 33 babies taken out of Haiti, tried to take out of Haiti, got caught. And all the stories have her sitting there going like, and calling these black babies her precious children. And if you guys saw the film Precious, I've only seen trailers. I can't bring myself to watch it because I don't want to watch an hour and a half of a girl being sexually, verbally, and physically abused over and over again. Doesn't sound like my cup of tea. And that's what that movie is. There's a movie called Precious where it's just a girl being repeatedly sexually, physically, and verbally abused. And, she looks like she, has the same traits as a lot of the Haitian children. Shinier black skin, very, very smooth, kind of glowing. It's what a lot of the people that harvest them look for. They're I don't want to get too deep into the dark topics, guys, but yeah, there's nefarious, very dark reasons why those children are favored by a certain class of people. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about how they can get away with this then, knowing what I just told you. If you're the FBI and your caseload is handled by something like a virtual case file, or you get your tickets for what you're supposed to address, and you learn later on that the company that owns it, so like I'll give you an example. When I was at the wireless company, Remedy, they were an outside vendor that provided a software tool called Remedy for us to handle our trouble tickets. Well, the same thing exists at the FBI. They'll get it from some outside vendor or whatever, or they bought some system that's in the internal whatever at the government, but it was basically designed by an outside source, which is SAIC, to manage these things. And then it didn't work very well. And then it was kind of broken and they had to get it fixed or whatever. But it slowed things down at the FBI for like a few years right after 9/11 happened, is my understanding. Great timing too, to be, slow on intelligence gathering operations and having all these problems. Yeah. And so they basically hosed that project up. And so what I'm thinking is going on is that the FBI is in kind of their own reality tunnel where it's like there's Hollywood making the films like CSI Investigation, and they have real criminals that are on that. They go blam, blam, blam in the streets, movies that are being filmed. All that, guys, blanks. Blood flows down. I mean, they make this look realistic. If you're an agent in the FBI, I got news for you. You may have seen special effects done right in front of you. Some things that you may have seen in your career in the field may have been 100% staged by said CIA with their Hollywood connectors, their Department of Energy crisis actors that have partners at the Department of Justice. And that's the whole ecosystem. The DOJ has to take in the cases. The CIA swaps the real cases for fake ones that are manufactured with Hollywood studios. Then it's all packaged for the FBI to go, I caught them. And sometimes the ones that are there believe it. And the people go, you got me. Arrest me. Well, keep in mind, like the way our system works now, guys, even prisons are privately run. And almost everything always leads back to a handful of organizations, 5 or 6 companies globally, acquisition, subsidiary. So once you have somebody that owns like a whole bunch of energy, media interests, and private prisons, how easy is it to get away with financial crime, especially an energy-related crime? They could create an actor in Hollywood that plays Kenneth Lay, another guy that plays Jeffrey Skilling, and neither one exists in nature. I'm talking about Enron. Let's talk about Enron as an example, guys. That's a company that had all this financial malfeasance for it. How do you know it ever happened the way that they said? How do you know it wasn't all just a bunch of fictional board of directors that once the whole thing was going to be revealed and they knew that it was going to blow up eventually? There's no way in hell you could rob people like Enron was globally and get away with it. So by the time the shit hits the fan, they've got the narrative built in. It's caked in, you guys. It's ready to go. It's in the company. The golden parachute is in the board of directors. The golden parachute for the people that did this is built into the crisis actors that are running the company. That's why when I see this thing that says, Mija, you're good enough, I know what this is about. It's the next generation of like Leonhardt running the DEA. You guys remember her? Those Chaffetz and Gowdy grilling the head of the DEA, Ms. Leonhardt. Yeah, that's a name. So Miss Leonhardt, just couldn't even answer basic questions, it seemed, except for in the most scripted manner.
Well, yes, after we have only so many abilities to address these types of human resources concerns, and we are required by the subsection of the subpolicy of the law, which has a subpolicy coherent to the annex subsection of the appendix, of which we agreed that I can't answer your question right now with a straight face.
And that's how they were answering all these different questions up there. And you're kind of like, do any of these people really have this job? I don't really feel like they seem like they're that qualified. Sometimes they're at the FBI level too. And so I'm really wondering, what is reality and what's fiction? Do we even know? Does the FBI know? Does the FBI know sometimes that crisis actors might be leading departments for other people? They answer their phone, but they don't really know what to say until somebody tells them. What does that tell you? It's Hollywood, guys. They're just a series of it's like a mafia of sorts, I guess. But it's more of a corporate model of just of people that agree to be crisis actors. But these aren't crises like faking like being a victim in an ambulance every time. That's one form of it. The other is, hi, I'm John Doe, CEO of this company that you made a money laundering paper fiction for. Now, somebody showed up looking for John Doe, head of this company, and he doesn't exist. Crisis actor enters the scene. Hey there, I'm John Doe. How do they make John Doe look ridiculous or look realistic? Well, now you have the IP routes covered. You have the internet technology, the information systems, all that. You can backdoor the records to create a persona, an ID, and everything for the guy. They can do it. They can take a fake person and make them a real person like that. It's just print the record. This person's existed for this long. It is so easy to do for them now, guys. It's like we're all in a Second Life reality that they're running, that we don't really have control over the parameters, where they can create people out of thin air. Okay? And when they create the paper fiction, they've got a network of tens of thousands of actors that all they have to do is then populate the internet record with somebody that has an opacity layer that integrates the actor's face in with the fictional CGI avatar where they look mostly like each other. Rinse, repeat. You could have a completely fake board of directors, completely fake CEO. That's what I was trying to get down to last night with the whole Amazon thing. It's fake, guys. It's just fake. And so once you understand that they sold Amazon and Jeff Bezos to all of us, don't you think there's people at the FBI that think Jeff Bezos is a real CEO? That believe in Elon Musk? It's okay, guys. It doesn't mean that they're bad people in every case. I know there's a lot of Elon fans. Great, whatever. What I'm telling you, though, is that's still a character actor. Okay? It's still an actor. Some may be rebelling. I don't know. That's possible. But these aren't the people that really did all this. It is lore. It worries me because if it's not them making the decisions, and we all get like, for example, like I think Joe Rogan's entertaining. You know, I have even some of his comedy albums, but there's times where he'll bring on somebody like that, and it's cool. It's not his function to be like the deep dive journalist or whatever. I get it. But I worry, though, that some of those events wind up just making it to where all we ever remember is that Elon Musk was the cool guy that smoked the joint on there. And then we all think like, well, yeah, he's the cool CEO. I'm glad he's the one. He's an innovator. I'm glad he's running our space project. I'm glad he's the one running all those tunnels and electric cars. And again, guys, he seems like a cool enough guy to go to a party with and talk to. But does that translate to somebody I want to trust with our space program? Does that translate to somebody whose company, again, he is the cool figurehead. You're supposed to like him. You're not supposed to reject Elon. You're supposed to be like, he's cool. And that's cool if you like him because he's probably a likable guy. You see where I'm going with this, guys? I'm not really trying to go around like laying waste to everybody with this. It's that this system of fakery has to stop sometime. It can't go on forever. So if everybody's kind of doing it and nobody wants to stop, good or bad, then where are we going to go? The good guys can't stop doing it until the bad guys stop doing it, right? Because they've got to play the same game. And the bad guys don't seem like they're really willing to stop. Why? Because it seems to me like that's this exact system that I'm telling you is what makes it possible to ruse the FBI equally and all the insiders that are investigators there. Because all you do is create CSI Atlanta, CSI Las Vegas. So if you're a field agent that's in Nevada, well, hell, all they got to do is make a parallel Hollywood production in your town, and they can use the same staff to fictionalize cases that are assigned to the FBI and are hyper realistic to them and even play out like reality and from them, but have no basis in actual reality except that they're there to manipulate the details of the real case into the fiction that the FBI and the DOJ ultimately will wind up prosecuting and doing whatever with. That's just the way it's been working, guys. I've seen too many examples where the DOJ themselves put out a press release that I'm like going, that's not the people that did it. Why is this happening? Sometimes it was a case that I was researching, guys. That's the only reason why I'm telling you this. They did it on a couple of occasions where once I saw the press release from the DOJ, I'm going, well, the words are all in there, but this isn't who did it. Damn it, they did it again. Who is doing this? Is it the DOJ that's doing it? Do they know these people are fake? Does the FBI know they're fake? Because I feel like the CIA does. And I think that a lot of these things that are going on, I think, are being directed by SCIC. And guys, I'm not talking about the quality of these people, okay? I'm not. I'm trying to get you guys to understand, especially when it comes to the space program, they don't want him to be like Jeff Bezos. You understand what I'm saying? They want things that are involving space and electric cars to be somebody very, very likable. I have no doubt that the guy's got a heart. I don't. I'm not even being cynical there. I'm explaining to you that this is the ruse on you. It's so that you disregard everything that's wrong with SpaceX. You disregard everything that's wrong with Tesla. You disregard everything that's wrong with the Boring Tunnel Company because he is just so damn charming. You like him. That's the point. Again, guys, I'm giving you this. I'm saying that, yeah, he seems cool. Not saying that he's bad. They were, guys, when I'm offering that to people like that, because I'm telling you that this is exactly how they would have used me before I woke up. I'm not woke. I'm just telling you, like, before I knew what was really going on, this would have been me. They would have done the same shit to me. They would have made me that kind of guy. Why? Because if I believe in it myself, I wouldn't have cared if I was the puppet character. I would have just been like, I believe in this mission. If they need a person like me to communicate it, cool. I probably would have felt that way. But now I'm not wired that way to feel that way about it. I don't think that we should be in that era of deception. You know? And again, guys, it's not really going out of my way to be abusive to them, because I would say the same thing about me. If somebody did select me to do that, I would be aware that it was a bloodline thing more than likely, or because of influence layers. Again, that's why a lot of people are selected to be presidents or whatever. It's just because of the family they come from or whatever. Is it right? Is it wrong? It depends on how you perceive energy. It can be wrong and it can be completely right. That type of selective thing based on DNA and energetics. That sounds like a really shitty thing to say, except that there does seem to be a thing within influence that these people have, where if you're looking for an ideal president or you're looking for an ideal leader, you're going to go for somebody that has an energy signature that's very broad and can go across a lot of different areas and appeal to a lot of different people. And that's found within those special bloodlines and those blood groups. And that's why they're so treasured and valued for all those things. I mean, that's just reality, guys. All right. I have something let's see here. I've got something that I think would cover this, and I'm trying to think of it about the whole crisis actor thing. And I'm just trying to think of a way to go about this. All right. I want to show you something that has like a little bit more whatever to it. All right. So I think this is where, all right, I think this is a good one to do right here, because this is kind of was at the crux of my material that I began with about 4 years ago when I was trying to initially get the attention of people at the FBI. Because what I was doing was using my wireless industry experience and my telecommunications industry experience to sort of examine why would the FBI maybe not be getting all of the human trafficking calls. Because I tend to believe, guys, maybe foolishly so. And again, really quick before I put this on, I usually start off by having like an unusual amount of trust and optimism. I don't begin with cynicism as much as you might think that that's the way. I begin by first saying, all right, I'm going to trust these folks, especially when they're in this function, and I'm just going to see what they're doing and how they're doing it. And I'm going to test the waters a little bit. And that's when I kind of was getting confused about this, because it said to me that what was going on at the FBI is that there are gatekeepers that make sure that somewhere, like I told you about that remedy ticketing system, like something's just not making it to them. The real cases don't make it their way, and they seem to get swapped with fake cases. And this is a very effective method that these people have done to all kinds of people globally, in America and foreign. So I have to believe that they would have thought to do it to the FBI themselves, especially if it's something the CIA is covering up relative to their own drug trafficking and human trafficking organizations. Okay. So this was one where I said that I believe there's an exploit at 888-373-7888, the human trafficking hotline. And I gave all kinds of reasons based on 3 stories that I'd done before about how that could happen, why it likely is happening, and if the FBI would want to partner or whatever on this. So I'm going to play this for you really quick, and I'll be back. Hello, everybody. Getting back to the issue about reporting issues involving cold cases, child trafficking, things of that nature. I started thinking this through a little bit about how there's potential that some people who have access to the deeper parts of our telecommunication grid may be creating, I guess, anti-safety zones. I call them safety zones, but it's really, what I mean to say is that they created like zones that were safe. You know what I'm saying? And I'm concerned about that, because if they're doing that, then that shows that the people that are doing this have some accesses that they should not have. And the reason why I'm concerned is because I've been told that it's very difficult to report, things like child trafficking and, human trafficking, things like that. So I thought I would just, check the FBI website and things like that, because I've researched some issues in some of the neighborhoods that I've been looking into lately. And I do think there's some legitimate reasons to be concerned, potential exploits that involve potentially piping private underground fiber optic networks between buildings and creating private networks that hive into good servers, BlackBerry Enterprise servers and things like that, that don't have access to not every point would have access via the NSA if somebody were to do this and they had enough money and resources, which it appears that some of the groups that do this do have. So I just want people to be kind of thinking ahead a little bit, especially my brothers and sisters in the telecommunication industry. Those of you who understand fiber optic networks, backhaul, try to think about the different scenarios that an elite, predator would do. If they were if they owned a lot of real estate, if they were trying to create private networks, just think it through a little bit, and you'll probably understand what I'm getting at here, that I'm not too far off base. Okay, so please just try to understand where I'm coming with this, and I'll show you here in this video clip. Now, it says here, when you go to the FBI website, and it says, okay, you look up human trafficking. It says to go here. You wind up at the bottom of the page, and it gives you this 888-373-7888 number, which in numerology is HHH, CG, CG, HHH, CG, cog, cage. I have that. Guys, I keep finding that word in some of the other dead end numbers that I find. So I'm just a little bit concerned that this, I want people to verify authenticity. That's all, just because I'm concerned. That's all. So if that is the number and it just happens to be happenstance, that's fine. But to those who are in the know, just think it through a little bit. Again, I also understand that 888 is a common prefix for, free numbers and things like that. So no shenanigans there. Just putting this out there as a thought for those who do understand the way some of the rerouting of numbers go. So when I go to the next link that they send you to, which is it's the National Human Trafficking Hotline, again, it'll take you basically to the same phone number. It brings you to sort of a template where you can file a report online, and then it tells you the whole thing is being run by the Polaris Project. So I don't really want to get too much into like reviewing anything about the Polaris Project. I don't know anything about them. I just looked them up, before I made this. So I'll just provide some links here to their executive leadership so you can look at it really quick. But what I'd really like just to highlight a little bit here is just like what I showed you with this process and what it kind of demonstrates about the possibilities for the potential for people who are significantly more well-resourced than you and do understand telecommunication networks, for them to take advantage of the ignorance of our population who just assume that when you call it a number to report something that you actually get routed to the right person. What I'm trying to help people understand here is that that doesn't seem to always happen. And it seems that there are quite a number of systems in place through which to actually prevent people from reporting things. And so I'm not going to say that that's what Polaris is doing, but and I won't even suggest it, except to say that given the important nature of what we're talking about here, human trafficking, child trafficking, when I go down and look at their list of donors, and I see the list of tech companies, I understand Google. There, lots of people have privacy concerns. Not going to get into that. Palantir, again, a lot of people think that they're an overreaching kind of database. A lot of things going on with that. I think there's legitimate concerns to be worried about Palantir's involvement, but I won't get into that either. So I guess what I would get into next is that, if Palantir's involvement is actually helping find people, that's great. I would just say, is it doing that? Is it actually making it better or worse? And I'm only asking that because it just seems like we do have a record number of, missing children, and we do have the ability to collect data, also in record amount of time. I mean, it's lightning fast. Our ability to predict behavior and to research cases and everything is just, we've never had access to more data. And just what I know personally from being within, system performance groups, which kind of do, some types of forensic troubleshooting within networks, which isn't to say that they do like investigations for law enforcement very often, but sometimes that happens. And, I think it's just important to keep these things in mind. Like what systems do we trust and who do we trust them with? And so when I noticed that, Polaris, down at their list of toners after going through all this, that they wound up at Harvey Weinstein, at the very bottom of the list, I get it, guys. Harvey Weinstein has a troubled history and everything like that. And not every donor that's going to donate to these places is going to be a saint, But I think it just highlights a greater issue as to why do some of these people sometimes donate to these organizations, Is it just to put a good sheen on it while their behaviors may not be the best, And are they potentially just? I get it. Most of them do it for that reason. It's for PR, but still, we're talking about something that's really more of a vital service. It's something that we should be treating more like a 911 call. And it seems like the way that the FBI is treating it, if I'm understanding this website correctly, and maybe I'm misinterpreting it, please tell me, because again, I could be misrouted. So that's what I'm really trying to determine here, guys. Is it really this bad, our reporting systems, or is it something else, And it's just strange to me that it routes back to a guy that's, again, connected to Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein has his Black Cube connection. And, since I've had some connections to demonstrating how there's people potentially in the Northwest that could be doing some rerouting of some things, and they might have some connections to some of these same groups that have been protecting Harvey Weinstein. I think the fact that he has such a high donation to the organization that might be doing the collection for, reports involving human trafficking and child trafficking is a little troubling. He's a high-end donor. I think, well, he's a donor, let me put it that way, enough to where they put his name on the website. And that's concerning to me. And I think that that's worth discussing in more detail and asking, well, is it my network here, that I'm being told something incorrect, or is this really the way it is? In either case, it's something we got to figure out. So, if I reach out to anybody out there, it's just because parts of this are concerning to me. It's not just this one issue with the FBI child trafficking website. It's the 222 number that at the other case. And there's just some things that I really feel like at this point, I would really like to run by some other professionals, if they're out there. So, just want to throw that out there for people. And I do appreciate your time. And hopefully we can, figure out what's going on with these things, because
Yeah, this seems very strange to me. Yeah. Thanks.
All right. I think that stopped. Good. Okay. My voice is different. Oh, it's just because of the way that the speakers sound and the what do you want to call it? You kind of get the nasally part because it's kind of going out of my computer speakers into the microphone. That's half the problem, so it makes it sound a little bit tinnier. The timing might be off a little bit too. So, but yeah. Anyways, so that was kind of the crux of it, folks. And then once I became aware of things like that, then the cult aspect of it, where I could tell that these things weren't real. There's people that just kind of act strange. They pretend that they're in a cult, and it's a way to dismiss all their other behaviors that are criminal in nature. And this is something I think the CIA is really effectively behind. And that this is going all the way back to the Finders. Again, the Finders was even a cult behind a cult behind a cult behind a human trafficking organization. So cultism is just a way to put it into a ridiculous looking package so that people on the outside just go, I don't want to look at that. Or those people made some bad decisions. Or that's just a bunch of ridiculous people that went to a commune and things like that. And then everything that transpires at these communes in these different areas that they know are wrong, then people on the outside just go, that was the cult. When it's actually a much larger ecosystem of blending in kidnapped children, swapped children, stolen children, and then having them all in one great big place together where nobody knows who the real parents are and and they just kind of go like, yeah, well, it's all like, it takes a village and so then again, it's this really, it'll always be under that sheen of like, look, we're liberal. We just do things a little differently than you. And again, guys, I'm not in, I don't object to that. I mean, if it's genuine, if you want to raise your kids a little bit off the beaten path and not like, the standard public education system, hey, kudos to you. You might actually be a better parent than average for making that decision, but not when it's this radicalized cult thing. And then they'll do it like it's a radicalized cult thing for the kids because it's designed to program them. The ones that are smart, they'll see the game once they get to the right age and they'll know that they're in control of everybody else because that's what it's designed to do. Separate them that way. The ones that don't think it through as much and just do whatever they're told, they'll be controlled by the ones that are there like going, I know what this is. And then there's those rare one-offs that say, I know what this is. See, that's the thing. They want the people that are smart enough or just have I don't know, whatever. I don't like saying it's smart because I think sometimes it is just intuition. I don't think it's always brain power. But the people that know what's wrong, they want that class of person to be inclined to say like, yeah, but these people are stupid. So they deserve it. I can't tell you how many times I had that ideology promoted to me. And I completely reject it. I don't like that. I really hate it when somebody says, hey, if they're dumb enough to fall for it, or hey, if they won't do the research or they're dumb, yeah, to a degree, yes, guys, because it's frustrating when people are just willfully ignorant and dumb or whatever. It can be very, very frustrating. It creates a lot of problems. So, all right. So I did that report because my telecommunications experience, I was finding that there were other tips lines, some that were close to my grandfather's neighborhood in Bothell, where a girl got murdered like 3 blocks from his house. Where once I delved into this issue at a deeper level, and I realized that if I called that tips number, that I was probably going to be talking to somebody that would be sympathetic to the killers. That there was at least a chance of that happening to me. Then I was like, how do I explain this to people, how you can do this on a case-by-case basis, how you could have a phone number that does actually route to a real police office, but that that number wouldn't always route to the police for every person. That if you're on a restricted environment, that when you try to call the police, you may go to a crisis actor. When you try to call a doctor, you may get put in through a separate network that sends you to a doctor that's friendly to the network. See, this is how easy it is to control the reality of a person like me once they realize I'm an information leak. They'll simply take over my IP address and all routes involving my phone number. And then, unless I can be mobile enough and get around and talk to enough people, then they can control everything in and out. Money, friends, everything. They can create fake people to enter my life just like they do to the FBI. And they've done it to me, guys. I've had people that were just straight up crisis actors enter my life repeatedly. And yeah, guys, I'll be straight up with you. I mean, I'm never to the point where I just don't trust people or anything like that. But it fatigued me after a while to where I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't handle this many crisis actors over and over again, you know? And I stopped communicating to the public as much. But that was the whole point of it, see, was to get me to self-isolate after I get fed up after having a series of fake people. And then I'm going to go like, is it all fake? Is it all just bullshit? Maybe I should give up. And it's like, no, don't give up. That's not the time to give up. Just, you know, put on it, but be smarter. This is just the time to, you know, up your game a little bit and understand things better and not to get taken in and not, you know, to be a schmuck. That's all. And so, the routes, though, what I learned is that I had people that were kind of like insiders that were tipping me off saying, all right, dude, one of the reasons why we were unsure about you relative to all this is because there was a case where I highlighted that somebody might have like skirted a regulation in order to gain intelligence for a law enforcement officer. And to me, because I had experienced things of that nature in the past that were nefarious and not done for good reasons, then it inclined me to say something when I saw it. And this was a case where I think that the person had actually skirted that law or that policy, because what was going on internally at that company was that they weren't getting the information. And this was identified between an insider at one of these companies related to CALEA requests. These are subpoenas for call records between law enforcement and the wireless industry and regular telecom for that matter. And this was my own, like, where I had to look deeper into every issue, you guys, where there was a time where I felt very rigid about morality and about what should be done until I realized that the guy that did that for that cop, these two people did what they had to do because the system was broken. The system was not giving the information to the law enforcement as it was legally required. And so they had to almost do something that broke a policy to follow and obey the law. This is a challenge that has been placed in front of nearly everybody relative to everything that we're talking about here. Everybody has something like this where they're forced to go like, should I do this? It's lag, it's stall. There's all these things that are put in there in your decision making that's there to prevent you from doing the right thing, to keep you from doing what you know is right. And they're dealing with it at that level. What I really loved about the people that I worked with for many years, quite a few different teams that I did, but you know, a few in particular, a couple I would say in particular were really like this. That we just had agreements where we understood things this way. We said, you know, we understood the spirit. You must understand the spirit of the law. If you're only following the letter and the rule and not the spirit, then there's a trinity within justice too, I would argue, that you must follow. And maybe that's what we should be doing. Oh my God, guys, I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this right now, because I think part of why our legal system is so jacked up is because of legal loopholes that are relative to legalese and verbiage that are very easy to defeat. And so I'm wondering if maybe what we need to introduce into the justice system is to remove duality from it and add another element to justice where we ask, did this person follow the spirit of the law? And that should perhaps be the reason why you have a diverse jury, because it seems to me like a computer almost would be the thing that you would use for what a jury's being done for now, just to simply evaluate, did the rule of the law occur in every single thing, blah, 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 blah. I'm not suggesting that's the way it works. I'm telling you that it can, if all you're looking for is to somebody to interpret the law, then they've already figured out how to do that without people. Maybe this third order of telling judges that they must ask about the spirit of the law. I'm not a lawyer, guys, but it seems to me the spirit of a law is extremely important. Why was the law created? That way people can't just create little loopholes and backward things to get out of it. So when they're caught like skirting it in that way, you see where I'm going with this? It's a little bit, yeah, I didn't know, but it's consistent with a Trinity, Lisa. It's just logic to me. It's just logic. You see, all we have, guys, right now is a brutal system of rules that doesn't even take into account the spirit of a situation. And I don't like that. See, in that situation, the person that I cared about deeply was doing the right thing in the spirit of the law, and they would have been punished if I had said something in a more meaningful way. I regret saying what I did or even speaking out. It was shitty. Yeah, it's about morality. It's about spirit. And I don't want to keep being put in these positions where somebody's trying to get me to rigidly interpret a rule or something like that and not follow a spirit. And maybe this is, we talk about the spiritual battle. Maybe that's half of what's going on, guys, because I just see it. It's in the cancel culture, too. The cancel culture is absolutely duality logic, tricking our brains and getting us into these little primrose paths of destruction. So I'm getting a little bit off topic, guys. I apologize, because I do want to get into the more of the nitty gritty about the core of what I was discussing here. Well, I am, guys. I guess I didn't deviate too far. There's some parts, though, on the slide that I wanted to talk about in a little bit more detail. Yeah, lawyers. Yeah. That's my problem, guys. It occurred to me that a big part of my problem is the lawyers in my family. I think that's the problem. I think that my philosophy about interpretation of these things is radically different than theirs. And I think that there's people maybe that are closer to me historically that have loved having these sort of like ways of just being able to like go like, yeah, but you must interpret it to this rigid rule of the law, this letter. And as long as I can get you to steer you into that one effectively, you're going to be forced into that decision. And it's like, I don't think that's the right way for the law to work. I mean, yeah, I think that it's important to review the wording and everything else like that, but there must be some aspect of the justice process where you say to yourself, almost like an after action report, all right, now that this has met the legal definition, does it meet the spirit of why the law was created? And maybe when we talk about a law, then the intention of why the law has been created needs to be in the legislation, which is to say that, like, all right, guys, classic example. Maybe it's a bad one because I don't want this to be whatever, but like, all right, an ambulance in an emergency, it's going to run some red lights. It's going to speed. It's going to go too fast to areas it's not supposed to go to. We agree that even though they're breaking the law, they're not, because they're legally allowed to break that law because they're following the spirit of why the law exists. The spirit of why the law exists is to make people safer. And so the ambulance is temporarily going around the parameters of the rigid law that says you can only go 35 through that zone and you can't pass anybody on this side and you're not supposed to go through the lights. Okay, all those are good rules to have. They're ones that should be followed. But we all agree that if a person's about to die and it's about seconds from getting them to the hospital, that yes, provided you're going, hey, everybody, please clear out, coming through. All right, then it's allowable. then there has to be other ways that are a little bit more subtle in nature through which people can't just skirt it and lawyer it up, through which similar things can be understood relative to what's going on in this current situation in our country right now. You see, because there's a lot of people right now that are just trying to do things to help America and honor its spirit and do justice within the spirit of what should happen. And you get punished for doing that in this country. And to me, that says that we've taken a turn in the wrong direction. It's not a sign that we're bad. I don't know why I'm getting so emotional right now, but this is, I think, the part that bothers me so much about some of the shit that I'm seeing in the streets right now. Did you wake up perfect? Did your family wake up perfect? Did your house wake up completely clean? Did it build itself in a day? We're building a country, a society. It takes hundreds of years to perfect. Don't dismantle it. Don't take the bottom piece out of this Jenga, because that's what all this is designed to do. And you know it's what it's designed to do. And the people that want to take the bottom piece out of this Jenga puzzle that we're in, instead of keeping it all glued together, it's because they're caught. Everything with the trafficking, the human trafficking, they're just caught right now. And they're knowing that the military, I'm going to be straight up with you guys. If the CIA with their corporate infrastructure cronies cannot control information flow in America, do you know what's going to happen to child pornography networks? They're almost going to disappear. Do you know what's going to happen to human trafficking payment methods that are electronic in nature? They're probably going to nearly disappear. You understand, guys, that I believe in America and I believe in freedom. And I believe in free pathways of information like you would not believe. I worked in the industry, and this is something that I believe in wholeheartedly. We should have untainted pathways of information as much as possible. We should get pure information. We should be purely smart and intelligent society, but we're not. We're a filtered, dumbed down society, and it is not our fault. It is not our fault. But we do need to get to these goons that did it to us, and we know where they are, and we know how they're doing it. And so what I'm asking for is a little bit of cooperation within our FCC, within our everything. I mean, guys, I think the military would love to partner with me more actively, but what is the pathway? What is the legal pathway to get me from where I am today to where I am with them? How do I even go about doing it? As a civilian, I have to do something that's extremely, I have to do something like I've been doing. It's one thing for me as a civilian to walk into a recruitment office and say, you guys, this is all left. Will you please let me help you? And they're going to go, what do you think they're going to say, you guys? We're the Army. Or we're the Marines. Did you forget what we're here for? And I have to say, no, I didn't. I know it seems like I'm just some sort of like naive guy coming into your office saying like, you guys, but I'm not. I came into your office that day, and I think that you guys know why I did. I mean, you know, I think it shows now. Because I was deeply concerned about this thing I'm telling you about with the information pathways. I could see what was going on. I could tell where it was happening. But yeah, you know what? Look, your cynicism is appropriate, Tracy, about asking people in the wireless industry to somehow be honorable or whatever, but there are people that are. I am. I left the industry because I'm so honorable when it comes to integrity. I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing. Again, I wasn't sure. So if I wasn't sure, but I was accepting money for doing my job every day, something said to me internally that this is wrong and I need to do something different to earn a living. I'm still struggling with how to make that work. But you understand, guys, like that was my career for 20 years. Do you think I say this like easily? Um, the people that are in the industry in many cases don't want to see it go down this way. But it's just like the military. The military could not be achieving what I'm doing independently if I was in them. I could not achieve what I'm doing informationally independently if I was still in the wireless industry. And that's the only reason why, guys, you see me here sometimes making appeals for support or for partnership in a more meaningful way, especially when it comes to money. It's just because I literally believed in this so wholeheartedly. And the messaging that I got was that, Gabe, if you just do this, then, it's all going to work out, dude. We're never going to let you fail. We're not going to let that happen to you. And I have to tell you something. They have yet to let me fail. Like right now I'm teetering like this, but they're not letting it happen completely. So I don't worry. And guys, most people, if they were in my circumstance right now, would be panicking severely. That I know. And I don't panic. I do have faith in them. But if I don't vocalize and if I don't externalize these things sometimes, they don't always understand, I think, the seriousness of why they may need to do something to meet me a little bit halfway with my efforts. But let me tell you something, guys, and I'm helping you understand. Yeah, I knew some people in the wireless industry that were 100% just like turds, okay? To where when I started doing research and I started finding evidence that there was rogue directed energy weapons going on, I'm like, and then I came across information relative to them. I was like, this doesn't surprise me at all. And I had no problems, at least accepting in my own mind that this person was capable of it. Do you understand that, guys? So I don't have the wool over my eyes like that, except for like this, because it feels really good. This is one way to pull the wool over your eyes that feels amazing. I promise you. You get a wool hat and do this. Oh my God. And then do some meditation. Whoa, that is some serious energy. I'm not even joking. But no, I mean, they see the problems, guys. There's people in the wireless industry that can see what's happening, and they're not down with it. And they have to stay afloat. They can't openly talk to me, and I couldn't openly talk to them, and that's the problem, man. This is my family. I'm separated from my original family, and I'm separated from the one that I had in the wireless industry because it would be irresponsible for me to try to address them directly until I can get a larger group of people to join me. I want one of them just to reach across the aisle right now and say, Gabe, I'm going to join you in this. I'm going to partner with you in this. I really wish one of them would, at least one. It would be so powerful, you guys. I mean, if you knew how much fun we'd be having, like I can actually, despite how bad things get, I can have quite a bit of fun just doing this independently. But man, if I had some of these others with me, dude, it would be like, we would be getting so much done, but we would be having fun all day long. Do you know how good that would feel to solve problems, to have everybody together and actually solve problems and help people and solve where these exploits are that are being used by human traffickers to steal children through the phone lines? That doesn't compel you to want to join me? We're the ones that decide, guys. We're the ones that talk everybody else into things, man. Is this that hard to sell? I just don't, I mean, I know you don't want to go through what I've gone through. I get it. This doesn't look appealing all the time. I just, I need a sign that some of you aren't working for the dark side. Guys, some of these wireless people that I worked with, I'm telling you, they are doing disinformation. It's true. I know one of them right now. Like when I first saw the guy, he actually tricked me. I actually looked at his material and I said, wow, this is really good. this is excellent material. And I'm impressed by it because he was naming all the right things and he was doing all the right things, you know? And I even reposted some of the material. And then as I was having more conversations and things like that with a friend of mine at the time, I was thinking to myself, as I looked at it deeper, it's almost like this person was asking me like, does that person seem familiar to you? And then as I look closer, I'm kind of going, oh, whoa. Yeah. I guess I just didn't think about it. I do know who that is. So, look, I'm not sure if I should even say this. Yeah, I think I should. It was Kevin Shipp. I think I actually know who he really is because in his presentation, he references his real name and says that he once gave this presentation to a friend of his in California named, and that was the name of the guy, including the slang rendition of the name. So it's like me, like my name is Gabriel, but I could go by Gabe or Gaby or Gabby or whatever, any number of different variations on it. The name that he specifically gave in his presentation was the name that I knew him by when I worked with him. And he basically looks like him. I mean, they don't look that much different. They look just slightly off to where if the guy that I knew wanted to play Kevin Shipp, it would just be a simple matter of a slight bit of prosthetics if he even needed it. Now, what should I do about that, guys? I'm not playing dumb. And that's not the only example I can tell you about. I'm not playing that game. Is he? I really don't know why he would do that. Is he actually Kevin and I knew him by his alias? If that's true, then he shouldn't have been working where he was because that would be a sign he was doing something domestic and not foreign, because that's what the CIA is supposed to be doing, is my understanding. And if he claims to have been a CIA agent in his past, and that's when I was working with him, all right, I'm just telling you, there's good people and bad people that I find with this thing going on. And not all of them are as high profile as a guy like that. Some are, some aren't. That's just one example that I can give you. Is that exactly, do I know 100%? No, I really don't. I can't tell you definitively. But here's what I observed with him. It's like all the other ones. I can offer comments on his YouTube channel, like his Twitter profile, that are excellent. I do like really good data analysis and I comment on things. And then I always observe that these characters that are at that level never respond to me, never validate me, never will repeat my information, never will say, oh yeah, have you guys heard of Gabriel Cruz? It doesn't happen. And so I wind up having these moments where I am whittled down to next to no resources, where it puts my channel and my personal safety at risk. And characters like that are allowed to be repeated. If I don't say, yeah, they're great, they're awesome, everybody, then people get angry at me. And that's an environment that the people that create those fake characters have set up, to where the minute I reject your favorite fiction, I become the bad guy to you if I won't reinforce it. And it's like, no, Gabe, I think you're the shill. Well, if I'm up against 5 shills that are all calling me the one that's a shill, then what am I supposed to say to that? Then I have to go a little bit nuclear on this and tell people where I know them from and how I know that they aren't who you think they are. And here's what I'm going to tell you guys. Look at a guy like that, because at first I'm thinking, wow, this was great. He was dishing out on SAIC and Leidos and that whole Dynetics thing. And I'm like, wow, nobody says this. Great. But then I start observing his Twitter posts. And as I'm watching the Twitter posts, I see him kind of like poking at the QAnon people, poking at people on the other side. And like, yet he was on Jason Goodman's show. Guys, a telltale sign he's into fakery. if he got a lot of his status through Jason Goodman of Crowdsource the Truth, holy, that is like a telltale sign. It's big time fakery. Now, not everybody that appears on that show is a fake or was a fake or is doing it for bad reasons. I was actually tipped off. This is what confused me, guys. Crowdsource the Truth was the biggest one that was confusing me because it seems so phony and fake and put on, and his character just seems so like, you know, that I was having a hard time accepting that it was anything but fake news 2.0 for a while. And then he had the whole thing with George Webb a few years ago and all that thing. And this is when I really started to uncover this dynamic of people in the wireless industry that were doing disinformation on YouTube with these fake characters. Then I just didn't know why some were doing it. Some did it for good reasons. For just like, guys, they're doing for you in that realm what I'm doing for you and myself. I'm not just doing it for people. I'm doing this for me too. I'm doing this because I want to have a family someday. I'm doing this because I feel like somebody robbed me of my right to have a happy life with a good wife and a couple kids. And that's all I ever fucking wanted. That's all I ever. This is where I just get pissed. There's some people that just know how to raise monsters and terrorists are allowed to have children, but they make it to where it's impossible for me. This is so personal. I don't want it to be that way, but it is personal. I have a lot of motivations for uncovering this. It's not just for other people. I'm pissed. I'm pissed at what was taken from me. Monetarily is just, that's just part of it. I don't care that much about that. Look, I was getting these tips a lot, and it was confusing me when I was first trying to reveal these things because I was trying to be conscientious that some people needed to have cover. And some of them I think were my friends, and they became hip to what the others were doing. And so they tried to get in the fight by playing the game the way the others do, and they got bit by the game. Okay? But they're not professional deceivers, and they're not people that do those things because it's just part of their daily lives and jobs. They were tricked. I don't know where that person like the Kevin Ship guy falls and all that. I really don't. So I'm not saying that about him one way or the other. Well, the reason why I thought, at first I thought these characters were designed to maybe facilitate what I was doing. And maybe that's why they were hired there. I thought, oh, okay, maybe this guy's there as support. And then I'm supposed to like not call it out. And you see where I'm going with this, you guys? Like it makes you so confused about what you're supposed to say and what you're not supposed to say. And I'm a person that just believes in just like being raw and truthful. And it's not always the right thing to do as much as you think it is, as much as I think it is. When all the Jason Goodman thing was happening, it was super confusing to me because, I was trying to do something similar with my information and get it out. And I was hopeful that people would like the way that I communicated things, that it would be something that's a little different, that could appeal to people that wanted something new from all perspectives, And I wasn't trying to be like a name. I really just thought I would have some degree of ability to gain a platform with some of these other people, even if they were only characters, that it would at least go like, okay, well, Gabe's real, but maybe we should have our characters reinforce Gabe's narrative because our characters seem to be more popular than Gabe. You see that, guys? I was willing to play ball with the fakery. I was. I wasn't a person that was all like, it's all fake and you guys are all bad. No, but I was waiting for some time for your fake characters to reinforce my reality sometime, and it never happened. And then I was just told that, yeah, it's complicated because the ones that are in control of the camera technology establish the narratives and you're just a character in it. So what happens when you agree to be a part of the narrative and you're just a character in it and you think you're doing it for the right reasons, but now that's permanently, immortalized within the realm of YouTube. Then now I'm going to go back and I'm always going to see my friend that was playing a character in one of Jason Goodman's clips. And I'm going to think, did that person screw me over? See, all these things are just designed to create stall and lag between a bunch of us that actually used to get along famously. I got along, guys. I don't know what to tell you, but I did get along extremely well with the vast majority of my coworkers. Yeah, I could be a controversial personality sometimes. That's just who I am. I fight things that I think are unfair. And I did that within corporate infrastructure, and I do that everywhere. It's been me since childhood. I speak up. To me, it feels like the reason why they put me so deep in infrastructure within corporate infrastructure was to get me to be less that way. It's like, wow, does he have a big mouth, man? He's always telling on the abusers and shit like that in the neighborhood and trying to get us to like report on each other and shit. What are we going to do with this kid? I was like that. I mean, I was kind of in a neighborhood where abuse was allowed. How else do I say it, you guys? And so I'm this kid in a neighborhood full of mostly programmed children that many of whom are being severely abused. And they gave me a separate experience. And do you know why they did that, guys? Why wouldn't they abuse me in the midst of all those other kids? Why would they just have me sort of on the sidelines witnessing and then never being able to report it or do anything about it? Why? And ask yourself, why would they do this so aggressively? And then as a lesson to me, if I tried saying like, hey, that man was inside there with that girl all day. Adult, why did that happen? The message to me would be, Gabe, when you turn in the abuser, we are going to punish the victim. We're going to interrogate the victim. The victim is now going to associate said punishment and interrogation with what? Think it through, guys. I'm dealing with it. Now those people don't like me, and I'm advocating for them. I've got a situation where there's a person that has such bad Stockholm syndrome, and I'm not trying to insult them. They may have their own reasons for not liking me, and maybe I should respect that. But there's somebody out there that I stood by for a long time, and I fought for them. And today, they would pick the abusers over me because this method of training children is very, very effective. Sexually abuse, traumatize, and then if anybody ever tells that this happened to you, punish the victim and not the person that told on the situation. Then the victim of the situation learns to also punish the person that told on the situation instead of the person that's hitting them or sexually abusing them. You become the bad guy for saying something. That's the programming. This is what I'm dealing with on a large scale with the whole system. They found a way to take that psychology and integrate it into the reporting mechanisms. You call 888-373-7888. Fuck you for calling, and that person is going to get picked up by a human trafficking organization. Next. Where did this system originate from? if my neighborhood that I was in was like this, and the cold case, the guys, I was born on 222nd Avenue. I need you to, in fact, I'm just going to show you something just so you understand why, what piqued my curiosity here. It was when I found a cold case murder 3 blocks away from this abuse neighborhood that I was in. And it occurred to me that what goes on out there, this has been just something that's, it's generational. And it never stopped. It's a neighborhood that they're really designing to do this. Sorry, I'm trying to find the record here. Okay, here it is. Now, guys, this was a neighborhood that I did a bunch of stories from in Bothell, Washington, I think back, I don't know, a few months ago, 3 or 4 months ago it was. And this is where I reported at the end where this dingle ball tail is. If you guys remember that report I did, I actually drove down to the bottom of this neighborhood and I told you this is where Jody Day Paoli died. Okay. And then right here, I showed you this neighborhood. This is where all the abuse occurred, was this neighborhood, 222nd, where my grandfather lived. And I can even show you this report, guys. I can put it on my screen right now, and I'll show you physically where I was. So if you remember that report where I reported live from Bothell, the area I started off, I did like a half-hour report. I started this end of the street. James abused kids in these 2 houses. And then there was things going on over here and up here. And then we had a house down at the end here. And this block was basically abuse central, 222. You might find it interesting, guys, that if I were to try to call a tip, it goes to 222 tips. So let me get this straight. The serial killers that I think are doing this, child abusers, Zodiac killers, rapists, they have rigging of the records to where it's like bait. If you try to call in a tip relative to Jody Day Paoli, then it's going to be them answering it. Now, here's the thing, guys. Just because this happened 3 blocks away from my pedophile deranged grandfather doesn't mean he did it. It just means to say, guys, I think we can agree that based on these people's history and what's gone on, that it's at least worth maybe submitting the tip over to say that, well, seeing as how all this got covered up, maybe you want to know some more. But you know what happened? It's my guess is that 222 tips would be about like talking into a tin can. I may as well talk to the CIA, SAIC, and the human trafficking organization themselves, because I was born on 222nd Avenue. It's even on my birth certificate. And I would call 222 tips. And you'll love this, guys. Did you know? I'm going to show you something. So remember that number 222? I'm going to show you something about how deeply these people are into both human trafficking and uranium. Because that area I just showed you where that girl got killed is also where a deep underground military base is called Souls, S-03-LS. I was raised 3 blocks away from the entrance to it. Now you'll notice, guys, that radon, guess what it's called? Radon is a chemical element with the symbol Rn and atomic number 86. It is a radioactive, colorless, odorless, tasteless, noble gas. Mass number 222nd. Remember how I told you guys what the mafia uses and how there's sometimes timeline clues in movies? What did they just say about radon gas? 86 and 222 are the numbers. The mafia uses double 13s. 13, 13, 86. There's your 86. There's your 13. There's your 13. How do you achieve that? You add in 5 and 8 to get 13. Your 86 is the bridge. Your 6 and 7 forms a 13. That's how I did all this. 77 is gigahertz. It's also the number of gigahertz that as a weapon that's called extremely high frequency gigahertz 77. It's the mafia using it. They also use radon gas, which is atomic element 86. This has everything, guys. It's all there. I can't believe so much information was in this stupid phone number in the movie Dragnet. They even reference a prefix that leads back to where they get the radon materials, which is Kennewick, Washington, where the Hanford Nuclear Reservation is. EHF is 586. That means extremely high frequency. The same lab where the radon's coming from is the same lab that's designing extremely high frequency millimeter wave weaponry in this frequency range. And this is where they are. It's so bizarre how it all lined up, you guys. And this all came from Dragnet starring Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks. Bizarre, isn't it? So I was told this, folks, if you're experiencing, I'm going to deviate away from the normal things, and I'm going to go a little bit weird. If you're experiencing some things relative to timelines and movies that are this specific, and you have this kind of talent for decoding, you probably weren't given the talent for decoding for no reason, and you're probably not a passive player in whatever's going on. Some of these things were literally placed there for you, like a breadcrumb trail, and I've learned that. And it's not misperception. It's absolutely possible. Here's how it would work. Say we all knew in the year 2021 that at this phase, we would know the state of the world and what would happen right now. What kind of warnings, if you had the ability in 2020 or 2021, what warnings would you send back to 1985? How would you go about doing it? How would that person know that the message was waiting for them, and who would be the deliverers of that message, and how would they know to look? What would be the signs? You will experience intense synchronicities, and you'll know exactly what it means when it's output for you. The intense synchronicities, I'm telling you, I've met too many people now that are going through it to know that not everybody's going to have this exact dynamic happen to them, but yeah, you don't have to question it excessively because some of these things were placed there for you. And just remember that the way to check your own logic on whether or not it's happening is it's a very consistent code. Numbers convert to letters. It's all Pythagorean numerology. There's really nothing. It's not any more complicated. There's other things that I can show people, like what I just showed in that photo, like how to decrypt the numbers. But that's easy. I mean, think about it, guys. 5 and 8 is 13. You know to look for that. You know to look for 6 and 7 is 13. If you see 677 on a license plate, it means 1313 mob. If you see 588 on a license plate, it can mean 1313 mob. Not always, but often, because I've experienced it. It wasn't just that the person had the plate, it's that they did the activities in tandem with having the license plate. Yeah. Just so you know, though, guys, you should really examine the whole thing involving Max Spires, because it's another one of these very realistic ruses, and I know because I was extremely close to it. I'll remind you guys, I didn't know him, but I dealt with some people that were close to him that were trying to sell the narrative to me to know how it works. There were people that alleged to have spent time with him that would talk to me. And so this is how they get a person like me to go like, yeah, guys, Max Spears, blah, 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 when I've never met the guy. Because what they'll do is surround me with 2 or 3 people that say they authentically met him and knew him and spent time with him, and even make me believe it, when a lot of times they never did, and they never knew the guy, and he may not even exist in nature. I'm not saying that's true about him because he went to a lot of conferences and things like that, but you should at least question the narrative surrounding it, because it is kind of how they fake the news 2.0, 3.0 was with characters like that. How good or bad or authentic he was, I don't know, guys. I try not to go there too much with him. But I was supposed to be at the same conference as he was supposed to report at the year that he died. So he was supposed to be at that basis conference. I could even show you the promotional materials that have my name on it. It's not that impressive, guys, but if you want to see evidence of this, I can show you, so you don't think I'm just saying it. Actually, I did a whole clip on it. Yeah, here it is. In case people don't understand what the chat's talking about, this is what they're talking about, because I did some interviews on this venue. But if you look here, they put me on the schedule. See? But you notice that they put me under this category, which is something that I absolutely disagree with. And then I just didn't like some of the things that were being packaged with me at the thing, and I wound up not going to it, and I stayed home. Mostly because I kind of acknowledged that if I had gone to this thing, I would be permanently marked with said designation. And that was the whole point of it. So just to put it in context, Tracy, ask yourself why they call guys like Max a super soldier and they call a person like me a bullseye. Then you're going to learn the entire game behind everything. You see, I'm not saying I'm better or worse than Max. I'm saying that Max was more programmable. Max was an easier person to manipulate and an easier person to deceive into repeating narratives. So they knew what it took to get him to do it. You're a super soldier. You're a powerful super soldier. You've got extraordinary human abilities and you've been underground and you've fought insectoids in underground military bases and that kind of thing, you know. So I was following the narrative to a degree, but yeah, no, I didn't go to Poland. I didn't go to Europe that year or anything like that, but I was invited. I was invited to go to the Basis conference in 2016. So if you wanted to see that, anyways, that's, I don't have it up anymore, but all right. Yeah, he did a lot of talk about super soldiers, and he was like partnered with James Casbolt. And so here's the thing, guys: James Casbolt is filled with ciphers and codes, and I can do a total decrypt for you on Casbolt. It's ciphers. It's all ciphered communication. He is a gifted remote viewer, that I know, or whoever represents him is a gifted remote viewer. But it is a packaged narrative that's meant to communicate details about something else. If you'd like me to decrypt this completely, I could do that sometimes. I really just don't try to. It's something I prefer to do with people individually and not in a group environment like this, because I don't like to give it attention. Just so you know. I appreciate being on the Basis project to a degree. You know, it did give me a venue that I normally wouldn't have had, and I got some information out to a large group of people that I probably wouldn't have accessed otherwise. So on that part, it was good. The problem is that I was surrounded by too much of the mind control programs, and I wasn't entirely sure that the Basis environment was a healthy one for people going through that. It felt to me like it's something like once you get in there, you're whether, I don't know if they're doing it for like to help break programming or if it's there to reinforce. And that's why I've always been kind of reluctant to opt into anything involving the Basis project excessively, because in my experience, more often than not, it's there to reinforce mind control, reinforce abuse that happened when you were a kid, so that you stay inside the frozen mind state. And very few people get unstuck when they go into that environment, it seems to me. I see people go into the Basis project and come out more controlled, more programmed. I see some of them looking like they're just total zombies, going like, you know, Gaia, Mother Earth, ISIS. I mean, guys, the reason why I do this, Gaia, Mother Earth, is from all my Basis project experiences. That's why I do that disrespectful kind of, you know, mocking impersonation. It's because of all the characters that I was introduced to that have that ridiculous perspective. And most of them were on from that venue. Not like working directly for them, but they were people that were like, oh, I just saw you on the Basis project. You know, I want to talk to you and that kind of thing. And then it was just bad news. I mean, it really was. So I just don't trust the vast majority of the characters, you know. Well, Tracy, the character that you're telling me, even though he has a realistic sounding name, immediately draws a couple of quick markers for me. His middle initials, you always have to bridge the last two letters to the first two letters. So in his case, it's Clyde, which is day. That's a family that does underground tunneling system and has control over the communications networks in Portland. So day, and then Lou is low enriched uranium. And so usually if I see day and Lou combined within a name, I at least raise an eyebrow before I'll even give them any more attention. And if somebody's heard of them and they're broadcasting from Portland, I'm immediately suspicious, and maybe I shouldn't be, but it's only because I know that when you have good information and you're from Portland, you have happened to you what happens to me. There's almost no exceptions to it. So when people try to get me to reinforce a character like that, it's almost always fake, and it's almost always going to lead back to a person that's involved with underground uranium dealing, and this is their front character to pretend that they're doing disclosure, to reel in all the people that are potential threats to their operation. So they always have hyper-realistic characters just like me. They would be just like me. Oh, yeah, I'm fighting the man. Blah, blah, blah. But there's always going to be that slight variation on it. Like, I don't know, my name, what could my name be? Gabriel Cruz, L-E, Gabriel, E-L-C-R, L, the seer. Well, that would make sense. My name's encoded too. They're electrocuting the seer. The elders of L are electrocuting, which is L. Elders of L are L-ing the seer, C-R. The seer is being rused. It's a ruse on the seer. The seer would be me. They had me in the family as the seer. I'm really trying to avoid those topics excessively, guys, but it's kind of how it works. I am the one that has the genuine gift. I have the ability. They can call it what they want to. It's not premonitions. It's not like you see to the future kind of crap like that. It doesn't really work that way. But what it is it is hyper intuitive ability and ability to draw on information nearly in a magnetism. Information flows into you like you're a huge magnet, and all the information out there is little tiny fine particulates of metal powder, all just flying towards you. You can't even help it. You'll start to reveal information without even knowing that you're doing it. Sometimes you'll be in front of a person. I've learned this about myself, that I was freaking people out and not even knowing that I was doing it. Because a lot of times they're just near me, and I'll say something that's casual to me and normal to me that they don't have, that I have no clue means something deep to them. And then I say it, and then they're like going, how did you know that about me? Or why did you say that? Or what made you think that? And there's a lot of times the initial thing is to assume negative intention. And I had no idea that I did it. I'm telling you this because sometimes I was around a person like me and I was freaked out by them. I was, and so I had to learn to tone it down a little bit, just so if I can, because like I said, guys, I don't always mean to do it. And so just to like reel it in a little bit if I can, or not amplify its effect or whatever, or just try to minimize what it amounts to, you know? But yeah, well, yeah. But that's for a reason. I mean, like the CERN magnet and things like that. Yeah. I mean, but it's interesting that you at least recognize that there's something magnetic going on within CERN, because that's what I think it is. I think it's a great big plasma. I think it's a dark matter orgone plasma vacuum. And that's the function it's serving. I really don't think that it's doing anything much more radically outside of that. I think that part of its experiment does exactly what we're discussing. It involves, well, they're definitely messing with black holes and quarks and things of that nature. But what does all that translate to? Is that not the fabric of what we all exist in? And then if that's not the fabric of what we exist in, what is the energy we exist in? It's orgone. So if everything they're doing is the fabric and energy that we exist in, then yes, what is CERN but an enormous magnet of orgone? What is it but an enormous magnet of matter? It's literally pulling in everything that we're vibrating into resonance, and it's restructuring and reorganizing it and then placing it back out in nice, neat, perfectly arranged patterns. But are they? I think it's if even if it wasn't their intention to be create a destabilization within the psychoenergetic field of humans, that's what they've done with CERN. Well, hey, Tracy, I wasn't trying to down your friend Clyde or something like that, or whoever you're listening to. I'm not saying they're your friend, but I'm just letting you know, guys. If you ever ask, I'm trying not to like cancel everybody who mentions a character in the room, right? I don't want to do like immediately delete their presence. So I'm trying to be softer with that, okay? But yeah, but I need you to let you know, like I'll say it as kindly as I can that if I haven't listened to them, that the first thing I look for, because they all do this, every single one does the thing with the letters. I mean, pretty much without fail. So when I see Day and Lou, I go, yeah, that's all. But again, I'm not totally sold on those things, and I'm willing to at least, entertain it. So. What do we do as related to timelines? What do we do? Okay, sorry, Lisa. I wasn't trying to. All right. I would say that part of what we need to start doing is accepting, those of us who figured it out, that there is actually tangible information that we're being given. And those of us who can take it seriously need to have some conversations in earnest and have a working group, I think, established. I mean, even if we're not geographically in the same place, we should at least be partnering and synchronizing our data sets, I think, in a way to help reveal larger truths. Because, guys, even when I meet somebody that's a lot different than me, I notice that when they do this thing that I'm doing, their information is still like a puzzle piece in a much larger thing that we're forming here. And so I think it's important to, like, again, like I can be stubborn, guys, but I'm not going to be to the point where I reject all new information or just because it comes from some other whatever, right? Again, there's a lot of reasons for me to be cynical about that photo from Dragnet, even though it had tons of information in it. If it weren't for the fact that the entire movie Dragnet seems to have timeline information, then I wouldn't even be mentioning it, like the one photo, but the whole movie's encoded. And so if source code, the film, is definitely encoded because it has information that's starring Jake Gyllenhaal, different era, but that's all about timeline manipulation and time reassignment and everything. And I never thought in a million years that I would be sitting here in a public forum saying things like this. But yeah, I think that those of us that have figured out that there is something going on relative to timelines, we need to be, I think, establishing a working group that at least reviews the data, because you can't just take something that's a timeline data set and say that it's true. What if Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks weren't on the right side of this? Then that photo could be placed there to throw me off the trail. Maybe it's designed to make me do exactly what I'm doing, which will make me look silly. I don't know. I just don't think so, guys. It's only because Dan Aykroyd has had a strong history of being involved with the paranormal, as was his father. His father, known by PH, I think, Aykroyd, wrote a whole book on seances, ghosts, paranormal phenomenon. And then his younger brother, Peter, has also co-scripted a lot of his, movies with Dan Aykroyd, but he also helped form this series called Paranormal Investigations or something like that, or Psi Investigations, where this is obviously a family that understands these things. And when you add in his Hollywood experience, then, it would be logical to assume, just like me, if somebody said, Gabe, look, we don't know if this is true or not, because we won't know until we get to the year where it's going to be verified. But we were receiving messages from 2020 or 2021 telling us that we're going to have some catastrophic event, and that if we don't place this information in these films, in these years for a group of people to see, that they won't have the information, packaged in their mind to unlock this puzzle when the time comes. I mean, that's actually a pretty logical thing to assume, guys. I mean, you know what I mean? You understand that? Like, it's not really that bizarre to think of. Because what would be the most natural way to get the largest attention, you know, like of the largest group of people, if you don't know exactly who you're trying to reach? Films, movies, television shows, especially if there's limited venues that can even, like, you know, we only had 3 channels, you know, at one time, guys, you know, just a few networks. So I think that that's a part of it, and also recognizing that receiving this information, there's a lot that you need to start doing. I think, as far as the timeline things go, to put yourselves into a calm, meditative state frequently. And I know that sounds like it's too simple, but it's not. Please, if this is happening and you're getting a lot of synchronicities and messaging, please make a lot of connection to your heart center and do a lot of heart-based exercises. And I mean to say, exercise your ability to empathize and feel like a complete person. The information, if you're not opening your heart, the information will seem scary and menacing at times, instead of you being open to it having multiple interpretations. You may be more inclined to define it with a negative intention, is all I'm saying. And so your heart, guys, I don't say these things easily. I feel even weird. Like, I want to give somebody a guidebook when I say do a heart chakra exercise. I mean, you need to practice the art of empathizing more, and not you, but all of us, myself included. It's like when somebody tries to offer me new information, if I close all of it off, then yeah, that could be damaging. But I also have to have a filter to some degree, you know? And so before, I had no filter. And then I learned that I was tightening the filter too much and making it difficult to even reach me at all. So I've got to like learn my balancing when it comes to accepting information and then putting too much out. I mean, everything is information balancing, really. Energy balancing is informational balancing too, right? And that's what I'm sloppy with. And I get help from people. I get, you know, advice and things like that. I value it. So what can be done about it? You know, that's a part of it. It's establishing trusted partnerships to the best of our abilities. I mean, you know, guys, trust, what is trust nowadays? But things that you feel good about intuitively, or at least you kind of say like, okay, my intuition's saying that this isn't the worst person that I should listen to. Maybe they won't double cross me this one time or whatever, like, right? Sure, we have to take those chances, also with the understanding that energy is dynamic at sometimes, you know, and the environments can change. And this has been my big struggle. Yeah, the filter, you know, and I don't always know what to do. It's funny you said the fine line. Even, you know, I was even like what should I mention sometimes when it comes to like the film studios, because some of these studios that I've seen involved with this, like, have done the films that I like. New Line. I mean, New Line is a cipher for New Well, the New Well line. And if it's the New Well line, then, well, you know something, guys, that occurred to me. New Line Cinemas could have had another purpose. Maybe they created it to fight back. And maybe because my heart wasn't opened up, I associated New Line Cinemas or New Line Film with, you know, being reinforcing Nazism, reinforcing the Tule Lake concentration camp in New Well, California, when maybe the point was that they were aiming a line towards New Well, like, hey, the Nazis are there. And maybe because I only allowed one interpretation to go into my mind, I misinterpreted the whole. This is what I'm talking about with heart chakra exercises in general, and just allowing more information in. Sometimes it's that heart chakra aspect of it, you know. And again, guys, I'll tell you straight up, there's people that are inside this room or even in this chat that it probably would take me, you know, a couple tries to even listen to them, because that's just how I've acclimated myself to, you know. I'm not a person that accepts a lot of information in anymore, because too many people are trying to send me nonsense. So as far as what can be done about it, I think that we just really have to open ourselves up to new ways of seeing things, and ask yourself, like, try to put yourself in somebody's shoes and say, okay, if jurisdictionally you're in this position, like, we are, like, what if put yourself in the FBI's shoes. What if you're just a field agent? That's what I was trying to do earlier today. And again, today, even this live stream was one big heart chakra exercise for me. I'm just trying to do things a little bit differently and open myself up within reasonable limits without causing myself harm, but also without excessively, saying that it's all nothing, or I'm not going to take in anything new. It's just it's a huge challenge. Yeah. Well, guys, I'm going to start winding down this one because I'm going to do an abbreviated presentation tonight on another topic. And I know that's a lot of time for me to be online in one day or anything like that, but it's mostly because today I do need to do some fundraising. And so I had something to say. So I wanted this to be sort of like a pep talk to a degree, and to let people know that, yeah, if you'd like to contract with me or consult with me or something like that on something that technical issue or some coaching on something, please contact me, especially today, since I have some spare time and I need some extra funding. I would really appreciate if folks could reach out and if you're interested in that, especially if I'm a little slow today to answer, though, on other requests. That's why. It's only because some days I just have to focus on the things that are, going to make it through the next day. So I have a lot of my, I think, most immediate disasters averted. But, again, I can't earn income right now, folks. I don't have a car. I have to rent one, and that's not a good situation to be in. So I'm just trying to find a place different to be in for a while, that's not radically far away from where I'm currently at, where I can complete some of this work and do some research in a safer environment. And so just want to make another appeal to folks. If that, sounds interesting to you, I'm closer to the West Coast currently, so it'd be very difficult for me to go other places right now, especially I have very limited resources. So, and I have all my worldly belongings with me. And that's the thing I need people to understand right now. That's why I'm a little bit stuck. I'm carless and I have all my things. Do you understand my situation? And I'm having to basically do this and stay in a hotel in Vegas until somebody waves a magic wand and says, yes, Gabe, I'm going to find a way to miraculously help you get out of a situation in a more meaningful way. I truly am in a situation right now where I need the community aspect of it. And I'm open to it. But again, I as bad as my situation is, guys, I can't just take any situation, and I can't expose myself to a negative environment, because it's too important for me to stay calm, just like it is for you. And I wouldn't want to cause you that harm either. So we all have to make decisions that work for us, and understand our parameters and things like that. So, if folks can help right now, I would appreciate it. If you would like to contribute, all the details are below inside the description section of my clip here, or you can go to my main channel, and there's a whole thing there with URL links and everything on how to get to it. And my email is there. It's GabrielCruzResearch@iCloud.com if you want to contact me for these types of requests. And if you just want more of this type of thing here, I'll be back on probably later tonight. I might go on later than normal. I'm not sure. It just depends. But I do have more topics to talk about. But I have some things I got to take care of this afternoon and address and things. So I got to do that. But yes, folks, thank you very much for checking out this presentation. I hope it stayed on topic and everything for you. And hopefully we'll see you later tonight. Thank you for joining. And again, anything you guys can do, I really appreciate it. God bless.